everybody, and welcome back to the Nextlander podcast. We're back after a brief little break here. That's just the break scheduled so that we can recharge our batteries a little bit here, catch up on some life, catch up on whatever we need to do, and also so we can remember to pay our quarterly taxes. Brad Shoemaker, how are you doing?
I'm here. It's me and my Sausalito Sunburn are here and ready to talk about video games. I'm paying taxes of a different sort today.
Oh, you're paying the wait. When you say
tax.
Sausalito Sunburn, did you go to Sausalito?
This is a Sunburn acquired in Sausalito. Yes.
True, authentic Sausalito Sunburn.
Rolled right up on that office.
Sausalito Sunburn sounds like the name of a jazz trio that would play at a wine bar in Sausalito.
The wine bar is defunct, I can tell you.
Another will crop up in its place. That's something I've learned over time.
In case you were wondering, the wine bar is no longer.
How was the office?
It's the office.
Yeah, there's still a basement.
Have not seen it since we worked there and just happened to be there for other reasons and went by.
Okay.
I have it on good authority. It is an insurance company now.
Oh,
there was
sure.
Nobody
That's
in the
less
basement.
fun.
There was nobody in the basement, but I saw a computer had been left on down there.
Okay.
And I was told that it is an insurance operation now.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Yeah.
It was always an insurance building.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was never not really an insurance office. We just happened to be in there doing work.
They just happened to
not
let some
insurance.
weird chuckleheads in there at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Navarro, welcome back.
Thank you much.
How's your Jersey burn doing?
Oh, I've mostly stayed out of the sun, though we did go out and do a little bit of, I had a little day spa visit when we were off that week. There's a bunch of like Korean day spas around here, and we went to one that we've been to a few times before, and it's nice going during the week on a non-holiday because there's not a lot of people there.
What happens at the spa? I've never been.
Kind of whatever you want for the most part, but not whatever you want, but like they got pools, they've got like hydrotherapy places, they've got a bunch of different kinds of saunas you can go sit in, including the ice sauna, which is always one of my favorites.
Oh, is like you pitch a long game, you got to get in the ice sauna kind of thing?
More of a, hey, after you've been sitting in these really hot ones for a while, maybe you want to cool down a little bit. Maybe you want to sit here in this incredibly frigid feeling room for a little while.
Is it, are they shared ice saunas?
Yeah, I mean, all the saunas are usually like, hey, here's like 8 or 9 seats, and there's also some other room if you want to go sit on the floor, so.
Okay, I was thinking like a pool of, like a ice pool, but it's actually just really cold.
It's straight up, it's literally just a cold, it's like you're in a meat freezer.
Okay, it's like I've gone to, on a really good work trip, and I put the air conditioner all the way down as far as it would go.
Yeah,
okay,
made that hotel room frigid, absolutely.
I've never really heard of this concept before of an ice sauna, so do you wear like a towel in the ice sauna?
I mean, you wear the same thing you wear in the other saunas, if you got a robe, they make you walk around in a robe, unless you're at the pools, in which case you can just have your swim trunks on, but
Okay, what did you do?
I mostly just sat in the saunas and went in the pools for a little bit, and then sat in a cabana for a while and just laid around, and it was nice.
Nice, okay. Yeah. And you just kind of relax.
Yeah.
They play like relaxing music and stuff?
In certain areas, other places it's just quiet, and that's fine. Okay. There was the one kind of like treat yourself thing I did during the break, because a lot of the rest of the break was taken up by finishing up some housing project stuff, like getting rid of, like we had the junk haulers finally come and take a bunch of bullshit away, so that's all gone, and now it's like, okay, I'd say the house is at like, the loading bar has hit 95%.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Outside of furniture, we still need to buy for a couple of rooms, but beyond that, yeah.
But here's the thing they don't tell you. That much like actual game loading and installs, that loading bar will stay at 95% at like, I don't know, for the next few years, at least. I don't know
Also,
if
the loading bar
moves.
is a lie. It's actually not telling you anything in regards to how complete it actually is or not.
Yeah, loading bars are hard.
Yeah.
Loading bars are hard. That's good. That sounds relaxing.
Yeah, it was a good week.
At least the spa.
As I was going through the Righting Wrongs Watchcast, which is now live for our patrons, $10 and up, I was listening to myself, as I often do on these things, and that is probably my least favorite part of editing these shows, but in particular on this one, I was listening to myself and I was like, I can literally hear myself running out of energy halfway through sentences and parts of this. I think I needed that week, because I feel alive again.
a lot of life piles up where it's hard to. It's nice to just knock off a few things on the list and add a couple of things to the list. You know, so it's good.
The list is shorter. The house is more complete. It's pretty clean by all accounts, and I don't really have much left like dangling. I had to mail out my fucking license plates to New York today because apparently they get really mad if you don't send them back.
They want them back. They have to recycle them.
Every other time I've registered my car in some other state, it's always been like, okay, once you do that, the other state doesn't really give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
But New York apparently gets a real hard-on for, you need to send us your plates. You don't have insurance on your car right now. What the fuck? And it's like, well, no, I do. It's in New Jersey now because I live here. Sorry. Do you not talk to each other? You're literally one state next to each other.
Oh, no, they don't talk to each other.
Okay.
Oh, no.
It's goddamn walkable cities just trying to take your car away from you.
Yeah.
That's right. They're gonna sell those on the black market.
Whatever. Look, I mailed them out. It's fine. Never talk to me again, New York DMV.
People, maybe it wasn't New York DMV. Maybe it's like people with Easy Pass being like, I'll tape those plates over my plates when I go over the bridge to charge you. Did you cancel your Easy Pass?
No, because it still works. It's tri-state area, man.
Okay. Well, you can get the whatever the Jersey one is. I forget.
No, it's the same. It's Easy Pass. It's
is it the
same
same
Easy Pass, yeah.
Oh, okay.
New York, New Jersey, and I think Pennsylvania are all the same, and I think Connecticut.
Look, I don't really drive. We just stick the little thing up there and then pay the bill.
That's not true. You've driven over here.
You're not a toll. Actually, could you be? You might be able to in New Jersey. You could be. Are you saying I should set up a toll booth in my driveway? You definitely should.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, we're back.
We are.
Bunch of stuff going on in the world of video games. It was a great week.
What the fuck? Why that week of all weeks did everything choose to explode?
Because they looked at the watchtower, the Nextlander watchtower, and they said, "Look, they've gone. It just says gone fishing. Let's see how much shit we can pull off."
Is the Nextlander watchtower just our version of the Jehovah's Witness watchtower? We just walk around the streets like distributing it to people.
Wait, what is that a book?
That's like their newsletter, isn't it?
Oh, yeah? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Watchtower was like their newsletter that they would pass out to people.
I don't know. I was not a witness.
Not me either, but they came to my door a few times when I was a kid, and they had the Watchtower with them, I think.
All along the Nextlander Watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a lot of classic rock in the garage this weekend, or this week.
That is the place to do it.
Hell yeah.
That is the place to do it. I'll say this. I wasn't really sure since I hadn't tuned the radio in a while, so I went with like my late 90s of like, I hope this station's still around, 104.3, and it was still around. That was the one I listened to in New York for classic rock at the time.
What's their slogan? Are they the Fox? What are they?
I forgot, 104.3. I don't remember.
All right.
I think, yeah.
Our classic rock station literally was 101.7 the Fox.
And back in New York when I was growing up, it was 104.3 for classic. I think 92.3 for alt rock, which is what they called it at the time.
105.3 was our alternative station.
Okay.
Live 105.
There was Hot 97, which for your hip hop needs,
yes.
and Z100 for your pop music, and that's 102.3. I think also came around a while. Anyway, from New York will probably fill me in, and then WFAN. WFAN.
Do you want to go hear the most racist sport talk radio in the world? Well, you have to go to Philly for that. But the second most racist sport talk radio in the world, that's New York, baby.
Oh, is the fan Mike and the Mad Dog, or is that a different thing? I only heard.
I think Mike Francesca, if he didn't retire, he moved somewhere else, is not maybe doing as much radio these days, if I remember correctly.
I didn't really listen to a lot of sports radio, but a lot of sports radio was on,
yes.
I'll say.
It's hard to avoid it when you live in the major metropolitan area.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Do you have any powers around?
Powers?
Like a Power
like
99?
Power 105 or
Power
whatever.
99?
I don't think so.
I always thought that was a good, powerful one.
Mm-hmm.
There's something authoritative about it.
What was when you had your car? What was your radio pinned to?
Man, I don't remember.
When you were growing up,
I can't remember.
Or you just tape Pearl Jam tape after Pearl Jam tape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of tapes, CD changer once I got it, and then when I did listen to the radio, I guess it was Live 105.
Okay.
It's good old classic Kiss FM.
Okay. I feel like there was a Kiss FM by me.
I'm seeing a lot of them, actually.
Okay.
Now that I look around. Seems to be pretty popular.
I've always been really, I mean, I imagine they're probably in the same state as everywhere else now where radio no longer matters, but I always was really jealous of LA's radio because they had like really specific stations. Like it was all the usual stuff, but then there would be like, if you lived in the greater Santa Monica area, you would get a station that was just like weird indie rock and punk, and fucking Henry Rollins would do a show on there and stuff. Like, I miss that. LA felt like whenever I would go down there and I would tour down there, it was like the whole radio spectrum was being used, whereas everywhere else, not so much.
I feel like New York had a pretty good use of that.
I came to New York fairly late, to be fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's like NPR and WBGO and jazz but then when I'm in the garage, only classic rock.
Sure.
If AC/DC isn't coming on every 20 minutes and or you're not giving away tickets to some weird summer thing, I don't even want to hear. And if you don't have a weird car ad for some car show every 10 minutes, join the WB whatever car show live, all your classic cars, also get free health insurance.
10th caller gets tickets to Foghat.
Totally. Yes. I think it was what were they giving away? Trans-Siberian Orchestra for Christmas?
Jesus Christ.
I think they're like, our Christmas show is going to one appearance only. Get tickets out.
To our Christmas show for Foghat.
This might have been a Jersey station. I think I put it to 104.3, but I want to say this might have been a Jersey station because there was a lot of Jersey stuff going on. Plus, you get just so many ads. Yeah. So many ads. But I loved it. It just brought me right back.
I miss radio. I miss when radio was like
You
decent.
can still have it.
No, it's not that great.
It's out there. It's all around.
It's out there.
I've tried.
So all you gotta do is pluck it out of the air with a piece of metal.
That's right. Just tune your fillings in.
I can make a better playlist now is the problem, and it's really easy to do it.
So speaking of airwaves, speaking of allocated spectrum, I got this new TV, and then I decided to plug an antenna into it.
Hell yeah!
And did a channel scan.
And what'd you get? What are you getting?
Yeah, well, first of all, it picked up 71 channels over the air.
Jeez, oh man,
over the air.
A good number of those are duplicates. To be fair, like some stations have 2 or 3 different channels that are kind of the same thing.
That's greedy of them.
6 of those channels are Next Gen TV.
What does that mean?
Have you heard of this?
I had Next Gen the magazine.
It's 4K HDR broadcast TV.
Whoa!
I did not even know it existed. It's ATSC 3.0. Apparently, is the actual spec. If you want to go look it up, but the name they've slapped on it is Next Gen TV.
Okay. What are they broadcasting?
It's all the networks here. It's the 4 big networks.
Dang, dude.
There's I believe Univision and one other. I forget what the 6th one is. Here's the fun part though. It is like a 4K HDR broadcast signal.
Yeah. They're
still piping the same garbage, like SDR 720p highly compressed signal through the actual broadcast.
Great.
It's like
because no one's actually pumping out content at those specs currently.
Only one of those networks actually is utilizing. Maybe a couple of them are doing 4K. I think only one of them actually did HDR. But like technically, you can broadcast that stuff through the air now.
I think all the networks are technically doing sports coverage in 4K, though a lot of it is still just being broadcast at like 1080.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should pull up like a football game or something like that.
Yeah.
What kind of antenna do you have? Do you have like one of those like flat ones?
Yeah, it's a little flat sheet one that's actually from the one I used with my Xbox One. Remember when that thing did TV?
Oh my gosh.
It's still on the wall. It's still tacked to the wall because it's the same color as the wall and it's behind a speaker. So I just left it there for the last, what's it been now, 10 years?
Oh man.
Almost.
I don't really get good reception in my house, unfortunately. I'm like in a bit of a valley by the Palisades here. Like I'd be picking up stuff from New York City.
Have to get on that roof antenna.
I know.
It's the joy of home ownership. A giant antenna on your roof.
I've got my gosh, how tall is it? How tall is it? My mast antenna for my ham radio that I feel like such a weirdo every time I put that thing up, but it's like 60 feet. It's really tall.
That's pretty tall.
It's pretty tall. 60? Maybe it's not as tall as that, but it's taller than the house. My house is only 2 stories, so it's pretty tall. And I feel like somebody's gonna come knock on my door every time I put that thing.
Tall enough to elicit some side eye from the neighbors.
Tall enough if it fell, it's fallen in the neighbor's yard too. So anyway, I should get that thing up. But the only time I ever break out my antenna, I have one of those flat ones too, it's a Thanksgiving Day parade. I will try, and if the kids are like, I'm like, oh right, the Thanksgiving Day parade is on. We should New Year's and Thanksgiving Day parade. So New Year's countdown, I will usually try and be like, and I only ever get the crappiest thing for New Year's, like some. And I'm like, why are we even watching this?
They're all bad, is the thing. There's no good New Year's thing to watch.
Next time I should just pull up time.is and just clap when it's.
But
New
Ryan
Year's.
Seacrest isn't on time.is.
I forget what the last one I watched. Maybe it was I don't know. So it was some
someone's
singer.
rocking New Year's Eve or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe it's Taylor Swift. Would she do a New Year's thing, or is she too good for that?
I don't know. I'm going to speak very carefully here because I don't want to upset any potential Swifties in our audience. Because you never know. Every time I think I know who is and isn't a Swiftie, a new album comes out and I am shocked by who actually is.
Just assume everyone is.
They're all out there. It's like fucking Body Snatcher shit, man. As soon as you fucking say one unkind word about Taylor Swift, it's like...
I feel like I was talking to somebody and they were like, and everybody, the people I talk to always say it with like a kind of begrudging guilt, kind of like, I got tickets to the Taylor Swift thing. And be like, you did? That's great.
Yeah,
like,
it's awesome.
No, I know.
Enjoy the Eras tour, I guess.
I got to fly to like, whatever country they were able to get tickets in to go
Belarus.
do it. But they're like, right. They're like, I spent $600 on plane tickets, but it was still cheaper than buying the local ticket, in my whatever. And I'm like, good for you. Hey, look, there are Taylor Swift songs I enjoy. I wouldn't necessarily line up to go to a concert, but that's great.
I don't really like any of her music, but I'm not really offended by any of it either. So I've just tried to keep a very neutral stance. I'm Switzerland when it comes to fucking Taylor Swift.
When the Swift army comes marching down the street, I will be the first one to step in line and start chanting songs because I'm not messing with them.
I genuinely believe that, and I'm not trying to get gossipy here, but any man that ends up in a relationship with her has to go through like 17 background checks now, because the second there's even a rumor that someone is dating her, they immediately unpeel every fucking secret from that person's life and immediately post it to every possible social media platform. So I'm like, it's terrifying. Like they did it to that fucking Maddie Healy guy who admittedly sucks, but also now that she's dating Travis Kelce, apparently from the Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like we might actually make some headway on getting the Chiefs to abandon their racist chant during fucking games. Like this might be the thing that finally turns the tide on that.
I didn't even know Taylor Swift had a personal life. I feel like at that level of stardom, how could you even?
She dates different guys for like 9 months at a time, then all her fans eventually descend upon them, and then she moves on to someone else.
Wild. Anyway, radio. Taylor Swift on the radio.
Anyway, you were talking about New Year's Eve. Yeah, she might. I don't know, but like I feel like the last New Year's Eve thing I watched, it was Mariah Carey.
Okay.
So
was that like in the late 90s?
It was like a few years ago, I think.
Brad, do you have any New Year's?
I think she needs a couple 3 years of declining relevance before she would do the New Year's thing.
Taylor?
I think she's maybe a little too big right now.
She is too famous for that right now.
It probably was not. I am very bad with pop stars, so no idea.
She's one of the biggest still. So
I do know that because I just keep hearing that. And there was another big tour.
Well, Beyonce is touring right
maybe
now
it was
too,
the
also,
Beyonce
I
tour.
think. But I think she might be on the international leg right now.
Every time I hear about the Taylor Swift tour, I hear about some other tour that is also like $1 bajillion to get, and then they start talking about all the weird Ticketmaster stuff and the pricing and and it sounds like a nightmare. And I'm very glad I'm not too attached to that, where I have to go chase down tickets because it sounds really stressful.
There is no show that I want to go through that much effort to see at this point. Like, that band does not exist.
And maybe my kids will fall in a place where that whole system will break before, it'll collapse. And then maybe when they come back and they want to go see bands, there'll be something a little more reasonable.
Some other band got into a fight with Ticketmaster recently. I think it was The Cure.
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
yeah.
I believe that did
And
happen.
I think they actually may have won their battle with them because they were pushing back on some of the insane fees that, Ticketmaster has notoriously always charged and continued to ramp up over the years. And I think they may have walked it back after Robert Smith said, fuck this, we're not doing it.
Look, it costs a lot of money to provide all of that convenience.
Yeah, right. Brad, if you don't mind me asking, when you saw Prince, did you buy through Ticketmaster when you saw?
I don't remember.
do you remember it being a huge hassle, or like I just got to get tickets and
Gosh,
you didn't have to like mortgage or like
no. It was all bought directly. It was definitely no scalpers or anything like that.
Because I feel like, you know, for me that seems like a thing that you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's like a $10,000 ticket. You know, you got to go.
It's a whole thing, not worth getting into. There was one of I saw him like 4 or 5 times, but like there was one time that I saw him in Oakland. This was when we were in the Front Street office. And then he was playing another date the next night, and I almost went and bought tickets to go again the next night, but they were available.
Wow.
Huh.
That's the takeaway there was within 6 hours of the show starting, it was still possible to go buy nosebleeds. So not that hard.
And the Rolling Stones are on a tour. Aren't they cutting a new album?
I just assume that at all times they are functioning until enough of them have died that they can't do that anymore.
Like, they're always recording a new album. Keith Richards is always shooting up. Mick Jagger is always fathering another child.
Though in this case, Keith Richards is mostly just shooting up with formaldehyde to keep himself preserved.
I think Aerosmith might be touring too. I listen to a lot of classic rock station. There was like something about Steven Tyler maybe having to drink a lot of tea because he blew out his vocal cords, and I don't know, man. At some point, just take a seat, man. It's okay. You made a lot of great music. Just
now you're not making a lot of great music, but you're still out there.
I don't know. Anyway, we got a lot of games to get to as well. Stuff happened. A lot of catching up to do. Let's jump into a game that just came out, actually, recently. Officially came out.
Did
it? I guess.
Like, God damn, man. There is a
Depends
whole
what version you're getting.
Yeah, there's a whole conversation to have here about the early access expensive premium edition making a comeback, because I thought, where did that come from? Microsoft was doing it like 5 years ago with like Forza and Gears and stuff, and it felt like the practice just went away.
But EA's been doing it is the thing. They never stopped.
Have they always done it? Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, not always, but in the last several years, especially for their sports stuff, they have definitely been doing the, hey, pay us a week early to get early access or whatever.
But it feels like it's everything now, all of a sudden. Like, I thought that practice had kind of died down at least, but now it's like Starfield did it, Mortal Kombat 1 did it. I think Liza P had something. Well, it came out like a day early. That may not have been a pay extra situation, though.
Well, I'll tell you how confusing it's is whereas like I went and I saw that everyone was playing Mortal Kombat, and I was like, oh great, it's time to buy Mortal Kombat. So I went and I bought the pre-order because I wanted the DLC anyway. And then it downloaded the beta, and I was like, wait, why did it download the beta alongside the game? And then I realized, oh, I'm playing this before you're technically actually supposed to be playing this. I didn't even know it was actually in early access.
Dude, that's yet another conversation. The fact that on PS5 it downloads the beta client alongside the finished game when you buy it. Like, come on.
So we're talking about Mortal Kombat 1.
The first.
The first Mortal Kombat. And if you bought the $110 edition, you got some, what was it, 5 days? How many days?
It was like 5 or 6 days,
I believe it was the 14th to the 19th, I believe.
5 days early. It was super expensive, but you also get the Jean-Claude Van Damme skin for Johnny Cage.
You get the first DLC pack, which has not come out yet, but is supposed to be out, I think, soonish.
Yeah, like and 6 characters, I think.
And I think you get earlier access to those characters as well for that DLC stuff. And you get your dragon crystals, like
your currency with a K.
Shang Tsung also, I think, like, is Shang Tsung just not playable at all unless you buy him or that pack?
Jeez, is that right? I don't know if that is.
He's listed as, like, it's funny because when you look at the bullet list of what comes with that thing, it's like everything's very descriptive. You know, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme skin for Johnny Cage, 1,200 dragon crystals, and then at the end it's just Shang Tsung.
Yep.
It's like, Shang Tsung what? Shang Tsung skin? Playable character? Like, what?
I don't know. That wasn't listed on my PSN one for the notes I took for this. It didn't say Shang Tsung on the on that edition, so I'm not sure. Is that on the website? I just assumed he was in it. It's a lot.
I mean, he's kind of a central character is the main thing. So
yeah, I would hope it. There was only one character for me that I think was locked out initially, and that was Havoc. Until
that's the beat the story character.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I don't see. So I'm looking just to, I guess, try to demystify this. Although I don't understand it still. Shang Tsung is not listed in this bullet list of features of the collector's edition or the premium edition.
Okay.
But he is a separate download on my console. Like when you go to like manage content on the game and see the list of stuff, he is a download. He is like he is a piece of additional content you can download. So I don't know.
Do you think that? Well, you said, okay, before we get too deep in it and in the weeds, you said you went back to...
you just straight up Porky Pig that shit, man. Before we get too far in.
You went back to more MK11?
Yeah, it's weird. I actually did the same thing when MK11 came out. I went and played through 9 again, and then I think I'd never played through 10, so I played 9 and 10 back-to-back, and then played 11 when that came out, and then... Again, right before 1 came out, I played through 11, and I'd never played Aftermath, so I played through all of 11, and then Aftermath, the DLC for that, and then...
How'd you like Aftermath?
Shang Tsung was definitely a thing for that game.
Yes.
So for Aftermath, yes. He's not in the base game, but...
maybe it's something that, like, if you have that installed, it pulls another skin for him, or like
Could
pulls
be.
an 11 skin?
Well, I don't know.
Well, because again, it's not Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa this time playing Shang Tsung, though they got a remarkable sound-alike,
They got a respectable sound-alike for sure. I liked Aftermath well enough. Like, it's quite high quality. Like, it didn't really feel like DLC other than reusing a few environments, but like... The production values and everything were there.
It definitely feels like a side story, so I understand why it's kind of separate, but yeah.
Even, like, it raises, like, larger questions about where Mortal Kombat is at for me, having played that, because, like, you play through 11, it's already full of, like, time eras colliding, like, past and future characters hanging out together, sands of time, history being rewritten. Then you get into Aftermath, and they immediately proceed to rewrite the latter half of the game you just finished playing.
Yes.
And do it again.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I enjoyed it, but immediately felt like it trivialized the game I had just finished, because they immediately jump back to a point about halfway through 11 and rewrite everything again. And then you go, and playing all this stuff back to back to back makes it more painfully obvious, but like, then going into 1, the entire story is rebooting the timeline and doing everything again. So, like, at a certain point, it kind of feels like they're going through the same exercise over and over and over. You know, it starts raising questions for me about, like, what Mortal Kombat's identity is, at least in story terms these days, and whether they have anything. Like, I love the nostalgia stuff. Like, I love Mortal Kombat from back in the day, but, like, there's definitely a point of diminishing returns. I don't know. Vinny, I think you finished the MK1 story, right? I'm about halfway through it.
Yeah, I'm on chapter 6 now.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I was also looking up the Shang Tsung stuff. It sounds like it's just a pre-order bonus, a general pre-order bonus.
I see. So that's why it's broken out as content. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. So I finished that. I finished the story. I think I liked the whole 11. And if we can include that kind of reboot arc a little more than just this story.
The last trilogy, basically.
Yeah. Like, that was more fun for me, because I think, like you're saying, Brad, they are kind of just doing that again. The thing that I had a little bit of an issue, I think it's told better than ever. I think the way they're telling it, the presentation is amazing. Shang Tsung is the best Shang Tsung I've seen in a game.
Okay, now you take that back. Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa is unbeatable.
Yes, I have to. I'm sorry, I have to agree.
But the sound-alike is great.
You can even in that DLC, you can kind of hear the age in his voice a little bit, but he's even then he's still. Also, I love what an absolute slimy huckster they have turned that character into. Like, so that's not unique to 1, although in 1 he is quite literally a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
I think in 1 it is let's say it is my favorite smirking representation of Shang Tsung, because he is such an asshole.
Yeah, and it's similar in Aftermath, where, like, he's not the most powerful being, or even maybe the most evil, but he's somehow the most effective. Like there are like 8 other evil sorcerers that could probably bury him in a fireball contest, but he is so goddamn conniving and sleazy that somehow he always comes out on top.
So he's great in MK1. Every facial capture they do of him, every time he's on camera, like, he's just so good.
Their cutscene direction has been good for some time now, but I feel like they really hit it with this one.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
It's very impressive. The transitions to the fights are pretty good. The setups for the fights are pretty good.
They're on par with what they've been doing. They're on par.
It's maybe a little bit better than some of the, like, you spilled my coffee, let's fight. There's, like, seems to be justification for it. They do some editing, which is nice, where, eventually you're doing some kind of tournament style thing, and they're like, you've got to do all these fights, and then you do 2 of them, and they're like, they'll just cut to, well, you beat 7 other people. That was great.
We didn't put Shiva in this game, but you sure did beat her. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, so like that's kind of nice.
That part really got me. They name drop what is Shiva, Motaro, and I forget who else. They name drop.
I think they said Kentaro.
That you never see, but it's like, all right, okay, yes, you know who's buying these games.
So they some of those characters will show up as cameos in the background, but I think for me this one has more winks and nods to the Mortal Kombat parts I'm not familiar with, post 3, pre, let's say 9, that like
so
I
4
just
through
don't
PS2 era, basically.
Yeah, I just don't know those characters, and there's so many winks and nods to those characters that I'm like, I don't know who Tanya is. I know who Quan Chi is because Quan Chi came back in 9. I don't know who Havoc is, really.
Yeah,
I don't
Havoc,
know.
Darius.
I don't know
Tanya,
any of these characters.
Ashra, like,
I know Tanya. I don't really know Darius at all.
Like that's
who's
something.
Sorry, who's the one that's was the one that let the father die in MK1?
Oh, Li Mei.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
One. That's something I've been watching from afar as they were announcing the roster for this thing, but not paying too close of attention. It being like half characters from the Weapon Fighter PS2 era, not my Mortal Kombat.
Well,
yeah, so like I don't know a lot of that stuff, but the stuff I do know, and I can be like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm not going to get into any spoilers. Again, the father die stuff, that is like set up for something else that doesn't happen in the story.
Also like the dead father in the Outworld stuff has been an ongoing. Like Sindel's husband has been, a dead figure.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a literal
forever.
That's a literal Mortal Kombat 2 point.
Yeah,
like original 2.
So that stuff, the stuff I do recognize makes me think, oh, I'm probably missing 50% of these references, because the things they do for the characters that I do know, I'm like, oh, they don't explicitly say what this is. A lot of characters get like physical scars, manifestations, or things that make them look more like their original character throughout the game.
Well, I mean,
you
get the origin of Kenshi here, basically, and his blind swordsman thing.
Well, or an origin.
A current origin, yes.
That's kind of the thing. I'm pretty mixed on this game. Like, I've found the story a little underwhelming so far. Like, halfway through, it's starting to get some hooks into me now, and I definitely want to see where it goes. But, like, I spent the first 3 chapters or so feeling like it's a little overly serious. Like, there's a little bit of a tone thing there that's not working for me as well as, like, 11 is just a big dumb comic book, like Raiden's like thundering authoritative voice, and like just all the ridiculous nonsense going on. And like this tries to get back to basics in a way that I find a little like overly kind of austere for this series. And I think I was also just hoping for a little more explanation of why, when Liu Kang becomes the god of everything and is like empowered to remake history, he just kind of remakes the same history that has come before. You know what I mean?
Well, they say a little bit about that in kind of, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that I do think that we're remaking the entire universe thing kind of just set them up to fail a little bit, which is to say that you are really presenting an idea here of what can be that I don't think a AAA video game franchise of this size and this much lineage will actually do anything that batshit crazy with, and they don't, is the thing. Like, Liu Kang remakes the universe, but he mostly remakes it in a form that is a slightly less harsh version of the Mortal Kombat universe that we already knew.
I mean, I guess that's valid, like, oh, he wanted to make things the way they were, but nice, like the way they were, but not like constant warfare and death
and
everywhere.
Still giving mortals the ability to choose their destiny to a certain degree.
So, well, yeah, but actually, like, the thing that's kind of finally made me interested in the story is that it seems like they are playing around with some kind of predestination type stuff of, like, kind of the stuff with Kenshi or a couple other characters I won't spoil, that, like, they start out very different and then very quickly get back to where they were before, but by different means.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, Melina is the other good example, or Baraka, actually. Baraka, Melina, and Kenshi are all characters where it's like, they all seem very different at first in this, but they sure do wind up exactly in the same place they always do.
Yeah.
But through a very different process than before. So, like, that's kind of interesting to see, at least.
So that stuff continues for sure. I'm kind of with you in that a throwaway line of like, hey, you can reshuffle the pieces, but you can't change the pieces. It would have been enough for me to be like, oh, you can't just blank slate a new universe. You just kind of reshuffle it. But it's also a weird thing where they kind of say he's been at this for eons, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and then the camera comes in right at the start of where we've known everything for all time with a Mortal Kombat tournament happening. Yeah. It's like, oh, we get nothing before it of like the dawn of time and all these characters, and we just come right in at this time, which is like, okay, sure.
It's a little jarring, to come right in on like, well, here are some Shaolin monks training for a tournament against Outworld. Like, okay, right. I've heard that one before.
But
it's fun. I mean, it's fine.
It's a good romp, at least from what I've played so far. And the thing I'll give them is that I'm with you. I have no real affection for the characters from like 4th up to about 9. That's just not my era of Mortal Kombat whatsoever. But the thing I'll give them credit for is that they do the thing that they do in the previous trilogy, which is to say they realize they have this incredible cast of admittedly paper-thin stereotypes of characters, but people love them. So what if we just lean into what people love about those characters in a very Fast and Furious franchise kind of way and turn them into something that has some give them a little bit more of a dynamic personality and a little bit more stakes beyond just the martial arts tropes that we have kind of given as their backstories. And let's build on that and turn these paper-thin characters into characters with a real narrative, which they did very successfully, I think, through that last trilogy. And they're doing that here with some of those characters. They're not as interesting to me up front, but I'm paying attention because they are taking the time to make these characters important in this new universe, and I think it's working for me pretty well. Like, I don't know what Li Mei or fucking, really even like Reiko's history is.
Who's the vampire?
Natara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But you're right. They're interesting in this version.
They're making them interesting here, except for the character that's voiced by Megan Fox. I've heard a little bit of the voice acting there. It's not so good, but
it's rough.
Yeah.
Which character is that?
Natara. The winged vampire.
It's very like Ronda Rousey as Sonya Blade level. Like, okay.
It's absolutely that whole situation over again. And they even cast another, like an actual working voice actress to do like all the grunts and barks, the combat sounds for that character. They probably should have just let that actress do the whole character.
Probably, yeah.
Because those sound fine.
It's funny you say that because that performance is a one that did stay. I wasn't going to bring it up, but
it's pretty bad. Thumb as soon as
because everybody else is very, very good.
It's because, but also everything is like so camp and over the top. Like everybody else is like thundering voice. And then like she is not really bringing a lot of emotion there.
You can hear her reading through the lines, and it just feeling like she is just reading it every time. But I will say the one I was genuinely pretty happy with is the newish Johnny Cage, which is not really that different, but they are definitely leaning a little harder into what if he just kind of sounded and acted like 90s Nicolas Cage, since that is kind of what we named him after.
I guess from that perspective, I could see it. Like, I find him insufferable. I know that's kind of the point, though.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
That's the thing I loved about 11 was like Johnny Cage had like maybe the most character development of anybody, which is insane to say out loud. But like old Johnny Cage like totally grew up, and was responsible and normal and cool. And then when his younger self showed up, like
everyone remarks how much he sucks.
Yes, like old Johnny Cage hated young Johnny Cage. Like there was some. Now we kind of just have young self-obsessed Johnny Cage here.
But it is a slightly different flavor of that than what they had in the last trilogy.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But just kind of going back to the merit of story beats aside, I think Alex, 100% with you. Their telling of the story is fantastic. I mean,
presentationally,
not just for
it's
a
amazing.
Fighting game, for anything.
Yeah,
it is well directed, it is well paced out, it is well, like the scenes are interesting, the introduction to the characters are interesting, the shots are interesting. It's like a great setup for whatever they're going for. And again, I played through the story. It escalates to a place that becomes ridiculous, like you expect a Mortal Kombat game should. Where it ends up, definitely feels like it's wide open. They have left themselves a place to keep going, and almost too much, but also
I've seen Some of the stuff I've seen about the latter half of the game makes me wonder if it is going a little too Marvel.
So some of that stuff you will be like, oh, it's 2023. This is the story we're telling.
And in fact, I launched the Invasions mode just to check it out, and they kind of, I think the Liu Kang voiceover when you first launch that thing,
does it spoil what happens?
Kind of says what happens in the latter half of the game, so I have a pretty good idea where it's going.
Yeah, so like without spoiling anything, it is kind of blows the whole thing open in a way that, okay, sure. Then there's the fighting part.
Right.
I'm playing the story on medium. I found it to be a walkthrough. I think I maybe lost once. So if people
play on
are
hard.
really, play on hard. If you care about the challenge, don't play on medium because I'm not great at fighting games, and I think like I said, I think I lost once, and I think I failed my first test your might challenge because I wasn't exactly sure what the hell I was doing.
Absolute cakewalk on medium.
You could jump kick uppercut your way through the end.
I was gonna say like it's not only. Is it easy on medium? It's easy in the same way that the arcade games were. Like you could exploit the arcade AI in the same way, and I really have to wonder if that's intentional because you can just jump kick your way to victory.
Totally.
You're flipping through characters fairly rapidly. It's not whiplash between characters. You will stay with a character for about 3 or 4 fights.
Yeah.
Then you'll switch on to another character. So you get a little bit of a chance to learn that character, but you're not going to get super in depth, especially if you're not going through the training. And you probably cycle through, I don't know, 8 to 12 characters. I can't remember how many.
12 chapters, so 12 characters.
And so, I get it. For me, the combat was fun because I was mostly there for the story, but I could definitely see people, if you're looking for more challenge, just bump it up to hard right away. Like, even the last fight I did on my first try, and but I was okay with that. Again, kind of looking for the story.
That's interesting to hear because the Chronica fight at the end of 11 is a real motherfucker.
So I remember that. And I remember playing that and being like, I had to do that like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, it was cool because the background had like dinosaurs.
That was a pretty good final boss fight, I gotta say. It was hard, but yeah.
So no fatalities in the story mode either. No brutalities, no cameo fatalities or anything like that.
Do they even really let you start doing final blow stuff in there? Because so far,
no, they typically don't give you those in the story.
Or fatal
fights.
blow.
Fatal. I think if your health is low
maybe
enough,
my health just hasn't gotten that far down.
I think your health probably just hasn't gotten that low. It's a left trigger, right trigger.
Yeah. It's that attack.
Yeah, if your health gets low enough, you can.
Okay, that's the thing is I think maybe my health just hasn't gotten low enough in the mode so far yet for that to happen.
It has to be below like 15% or something like that. Because I'm sure the other guys are doing it. The AI is doing it to you.
The invasion mode is interesting, I will say. It's not great from what I've played of it so far, but it is a pretty, like, if you want something that is sort of crypt-like in that it is a thing you wander around and then you unlock stuff as you go, that's cool. The fights are not particularly interesting so far. It's just kind of variations on a theme. But if you want to go through and unlock a bunch of stuff, that seems like the way to do it.
It sounds like an extraordinary grind from what I've seen, which is it's very consistent with where they've been. Like the Crypt in 11 was unbelievably grindy as well. I didn't realize that was like a hub to run around like Crypt style. I thought this game just didn't either. Well, didn't have that, so that's good to hear, I guess. Although,
I don't know if it's exactly a hub because, like, I'm only gone through like what I assume is the first area. I assume there are other areas, which is Johnny Cage's house. But you just walk through there and then you hop on another circle. It looks like a board game, basically.
Okay. Oh no, that's very different then.
Yeah.
It's
like a top-down view. You're walking around. You land on a thing.
Okay.
You either do a fight or you unlock something. Then you move on to the next section. There's multiple paths through the different areas. But it is very like hit a thing, hit a thing, hit a thing, unlock some stuff, hit a thing, etc.
Interesting. Okay. Like that's, I haven't really seen Invade. I actually bailed out as soon as I realized Liu Kang seemed to be like explaining the end of the story. I was like, nope. So I haven't seen the mode, but like coming into this, that's another thing I was a little worried about because the Crypt from 11 is going to be so goddamn hard to top. Like it certainly had its issues.
It was tedious.
Being very grindy and some of the puzzles are a little too obscure, but like the fantasy wish fulfillment of having the entire goddamn island from the first 2 games, like just there to run around from end to end and explore was so goddamn cool. Like, I don't know how you top, like, I kind of came out of, like, I may have said this before, like, I came out of 11 feeling like, how are they going to top any of that? Like, 11, and maybe that's very personal because it just went straight to my nostalgia centers, and there are characters from different games in this game that other people may care about more. because they liked those games more. But like for me, 11 felt like the pinnacle of everything you could do with the Mortal Kombat that I remember and love. And maybe there was no way I was ever going to like follow up as much. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing I'm kind of coming away from this game with, which is that my feeling is they knew that at a certain point what they were setting up was going to be completely impossible to fulfill in the, grand designs of the gamer mind. So at a certain point they're just like, look, we're just going to reestablish this shit with the next game. We'll give it an interesting gimmick, which I think is the cameo system, which we've barely talked about, but as far as like the storytelling and what we're doing with the characters and what we're doing with modes and stuff, let's just set this as the new foundation point, and then we will build from there. Let people be let down a little bit by, whatever scope of story they may have thought we were going to do. But let's be realistic. It's still Mortal Kombat. We still have a franchise here that we have to maintain and these characters that people expect. So we'll give them each a new coat of polish, and maybe we'll make some people brothers that weren't before. But other than that, it's still Mortal Kombat.
And kind of like Brad alluded to, you do wind up in a situation where, look, you're going to get what you want out of your Mortal Kombat characters. Yeah. They all kind of wind up, the arc of fate kind of bends them back towards being their Mortal Kombat character. I think the fighting's really snappy. I'm not one to talk about the fighting systems. It feels snappy. It feels good. I'm not a good Mortal Kombat player, so I don't know if it's bad or good.
I'm
it just feels good to me.
Mortal Kombat player. I think my problem has always been with these, especially with the last few games, is that I just don't have a great flow feel for it, whereas I have maybe a better one with stuff like Street Fighter and Tekken. But I think it's pretty snappy. It's pretty responsive. I've managed to pull out some combos without even really trying too hard, so I think the cameo thing is interesting. I don't know that it's as much of a gimmick as I was maybe kind of thinking or hoping it would be. It really is just a thing where you can kind of decide what kind of setup you want for crazier combos. It's like when you pick a certain character, it really just comes down to, okay, do you want them to juggle them this way or that way or what have you?
Freeze them.
Yeah, and you can do some interesting stuff with that.
So like Ed Boon was retweeting somebody's video last night of, I forget what the combo of characters was. It was like Scorpion and somebody, but it was like, hey, you could turn this combo into a launcher at the end if you use this cameo character in this way at the right time. It's just like, seems like almost endless combinations of characters and cameos you can try out and find weird little things.
And I think on the competitive side, that stuff will be really interesting. But if you're here mostly for the, the nostalgia and just sort of the consuming of Mortal Kombat content, I don't know that I think the cameo is like as much of like a revolutionary game changer thing as it may be for people who play competitively.
I just play with Jax because I like at the end of every match, Jax comes in and flexes.
Yep.
It looks
that's
awesome
a good ass Jax like that.
Yeah.
But that's true of all the cameo characters. I don't know if there's like ever a story explanation for this, but all the cameo characters obviously are extreme MK1, MK2 era, like exact designs from the arcade games.
It is the highest res sector you have ever fucking seen in that form.
Like Jax, Kano, and Sonya in particular are all just like so close that it actually made me wonder if there are likeness rights around. I'm sure those actors that did all the digitized stuff back in the day signed away any likeness rights, so that's probably not a problem.
And if you're not going out and giving Ronda Rousey money again, I'm okay with that.
But yeah, those are some good characters.
They look good, and they have their fatalities. The cameo fatalities, though. Out of the gate, you kind of don't really get much. You get one fatality per character, and you get one brutality, and I think you get one cameo fatality. Where are those things unlocked? Are they in that?
I assume it must be in that invasion mode.
Because there's a character progression per character. They each have their own progression timeline where you accrue points by using a character.
And you earn currency by using them, yeah.
But I think they only show up to the first 6 things, and then it's all question marks. Yeah. So I saw brutality on there. It's a lot of color palette stuff. But I wasn't sure where I'm getting everything. Sometimes it'll tell you where to get it. So there's gear, there's cosmetic gear in the game also.
Oh, they really want to sell you that gear in that store if you're into that sort of thing. I am not.
It looks like Invasion and online matchmaking are where you get XP to level characters.
Okay. I did the tower and I got some XP for some coins, or I got the coins. You can also get XP just by battling in the tower. The coins unlocked skin, I think. I don't know. There's a lot of like machinery behind unlocking stuff. There's a lot of places to unlock stuff, and there's a lot of different items and stuff to get. It seems like gear and combat gear and whatever it is.
11 was a little too thick with that stuff for me. Like it just got a little overwhelming at some point. So I wonder.
Yeah, like not having the fatalities is kind of a bummer. Like or access to, or even knowing what fatalities are coming up. Because I'm not sure I'm going to put that. I don't know if I'm going to put all those hours in. And I kind of want to see them, or I want to check some of them out. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm not a big competitive Mortal Kombat player. You get a decent amount of gear from playing through the story. After each fight, you get some stuff, but the gear is mostly cosmetic. The Van Damme skin is fun. That comes with a $100 version, but it's all right.
It's a little goofy to me that they leaned harder on the Cage side with the actual Nick Cage or Johnny Cage performance, and then they went and got Jean-Claude Van Damme to literally do a voice and a likeness for the character. Like, I like the Van Damme thing, don't get me wrong. I think it's fun and it's a goofy thing, and obviously it was a fulfillment of a dream that Ed Boon seemed to have, but I don't know, it just feels like, okay, well, I mean, I know the character is kind of a pastiche of a couple of different action stars, but those two personalities and voices could not be more different from one another.
Yeah, I didn't know about that history until recently. Like, apparently they tried to get Van Damme for the first game for Cage, so that's kind of why they wrapped back around to it. But like, having seen the cinematic masterpiece Street Fighter in the last year or so, I'm going to say like Van Damme's on-screen persona would not work very well for what they're doing with Johnny Cage here.
Well, no, he can't be like Belgian is the thing. Yeah. Like, you can't have a Belgian Johnny Cage unless you want to remake the universe in that way.
But
can't remake the universe. What are you out of your mind?
Nope.
Liu Kang was too busy generating a new John Cena.
I'd say story-wise, I think I had hoped it would go somewhere different than it does at the end, but it's still pretty fun. Mm-hmm. But it's not as fun, and I don't even think it's as outlandish as 11 is. Because like 11, you're like, this is ridiculous.
That's what it is, really. Like fucking 11 opens on evil Raiden torturing Shinnok and then beheading him. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my god, this is not messing around, and it just gets wilder from there.
Again,
the one other thing that I think 11 has maybe a leg up on. Like, the production values in 1 are obviously, like, significantly advanced from 11. There are parts of 11 where the cutscenes look, like, good, but, it's like, okay, this is good for a video game. Like, this is not... Whereas, like 1 is, like, kind of almost feature quality CG.
Yeah.
Pretty much across the board.
And direction and cinematography. Like, they really get a cinematic feel out of that stuff.
The one thing that 11 just has like piles of is like some kind of incredible fight choreography. Like, there is a ton of really good hand-to-hand fighting in the cutscenes in 11, and it feels like there's a bit less of that here.
There is.
There's still some.
There's still some,
but like it just goes and goes in the last one.
I'll say the fighting, I think, in 1 is a little, the choreographed fighting in 1 feels a little more by the books. Mm-hmm. Where I think 11 to me feels like more comic book, more anime, and 1 feels more like a mainstream Hollywood blockbuster movie. Yes,
that's pretty much exactly it. Like 11, I had that thought several times through 11. I was just like, man, this is like anime as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got it like it feels like it knows what it wants to be, and it's got a confidence, and it just goes. And 1 feels like we can maybe get this into theaters, or this could be a movie, and it's got those kind of restraints where we can't go too far outside. Like we'll. Where it's still fun, and again, I think the performances are great, and it's interesting, but it starts to get a little predictable, I think, towards the back half of it.
Yeah.
There's the one other thing I forgot to mention was like they seem to like kind of subtly be gesturing toward that last movie a little bit in spots with some of the characters.
I didn't see it.
Like the Shang Tsung in this looks pretty similar to the Shang Tsung in that last movie. He's got the same hairstyle, the same kind of like top knot looking thing going on.
They are making another one of those.
Yes, they are making another one of those, which is why I wondered if they're kind of like subtly trying to tie into some of that stuff.
When you consider the whole weird mandate that WB and DC has around the DC Universe stuff now, where it's like if you're going to do DC Universe stuff, you have to like involve the same actors in the various cross-media things.
Yeah.
I wonder if they are getting some similar mandates about like, hey, we're making these Mortal Kombat movies. You should make the games look maybe a little more like those movies if you can.
Yes.
There is kind of a weird thing in the story mode and the tower mode, I'll say. I beat the story mode. It gives you some choice at the end. Not a huge thing, but you get some character selection stuff at the end. But I think then you can play through the tower mode to get different. I think the end of the tower, which is like the arcade mode, gets you a story ending for that character you're playing.
Yeah, it's that arcade mode style stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it relates back to the main narrative story. So I would say kind of along the lines where you were saying, Brad, of the invasion stuff, if you're going to play it and you're interested in the story, maybe get through all the narrative stuff before you mess around in the tower and the invasion stuff, because you might spoil yourself on what happens at the end of that story.
That's, nothing I heard there was super surprising based on the Marvel-ish stuff I had seen people talking about.
Yeah. It feels like the most 2023-ish way to go with a thing.
Mm-hmm. Except I feel like we're kind of on the tail end of that stuff.
Totally.
Like the public's appetite for that kind of thing is like pretty saturated at this point.
Problem is, when you start production on these sorts of things, like 2 or 3 years ago, like, yeah.
It's like your zombie movie came out just as 3 zombie movies too late kind of thing. But again, I think it's really fun. I don't know how much more I'm going to play competitively of this game. I'll probably dig in. I wish I had a sense of how long to get stuff. Yeah. You know, like there's so much stuff and I really just want to get the fatalities, really is what I want. But there's no way I think to directly just go and get them.
Just go buy some of those easy fatality coins.
Oh man. Wait, do you have to spend those?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you want to use easy for fatalities, yes.
I can't speak for this game, but that's how it's been in the past. Those are reconsumable.
Oh, because I was trying to do some of those and I couldn't do them, and then so I just wound up doing the actual fatality, and maybe that's why.
The weird thing for me about the easy fatalities, and has always been, is that they have made the actual fatality combos so easy at this point that like the easy
it's like
that feels
2 more
redundant.
Button presses.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, God damn it! Back in my day, we held low punch for 30 seconds straight.
If you were one pixel too far from mid range, you would not get that fucking thing off. Whereas now the window feels like you could drive a Buick through it.
And the commands are basically 4 commands. It's like down, back, down,
triangle. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
So
and you could pull up the move command list whenever you want. So
no longer you have to print out a fucking thing and then like tape it up to the side of the arcade cabinet.
Like I actually had kind of thought about like, man, what is even the role of fatalities in this day and age when you can just go watch them all on YouTube? And I think it's probably mostly like styling on online opponents. Basically, is just as a flourish at the end when you beat somebody.
So it's funny you say that, because when I was doing the tower, I think you might get more points or XP if you do a fatality or a brutality, but I only have the one, and I got sick of seeing it.
Yeah.
So I was like, and it takes so long, right? So I was like, do I do the fatality for the points, or do I just do an uppercut and get out of this match and be done? And most of the time, I'm just going to do an uppercut. I don't feel like watching this fatality for the 7th time in a row.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Or I could do the cameo fatality, which I also only have one of. So especially on those long towers where you're just like, you're going forever.
I need to spend some more time with it. I need, to get a little more of a feel for it. But I feel like right now my feeling is I like the story and presentation content better in this one. But I think from a fighting perspective and I want to keep playing it perspective, I'm having a little more fun, or had a little more fun with Street Fighter 6. So, I mean, inevitably you have to compare the two because it's Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. You have no choice. But I feel like the fighting is more energetic and fun in Street Fighter, but the presentation content and all that other stuff, the accoutrement around the edges, is better in Mortal Kombat.
Like this thing is just in a class of its own in fighting game story context. Like there's nothing else out there on the market like this. It's crazy.
Tekken is maybe the one that gets closest, but it's still very different.
Yeah, it's apparently a bigger draw than I realized, just kind of anecdotally reading around Twitter and seeing the number of people saying, and some of this was in response to like some MK fan being shitty that went viral about the story mode not mattering, and like a ton of people going like, I'm going to buy this, play the story, and then trade it in. Like I play this for the story, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I went and looked at the trophy statistics on PS5, and almost half of people have finished half the story, and like over a third have finished the entire story already, which is insane.
Yeah,
for
it's
single player completion.
Yeah, it was like 6 to 8 hours, if that.
It's not long, but single player completion rates are like notoriously low.
Yes,
when you look at statistics, and so for that many people to have already finished it, like it's clear that a lot of people are showing up for the story mode in this.
So, it's an expensive game for that story mode. I'll say that, like especially if you're buying the, deluxe edition, $100+ for that story mode is a lot, but I'm in it for the story mode. I think it delivers well. I think it's more competitive with narrative games than I would say fighting games in terms of the presentation and what it's doing in that narrative mode. So yeah, it's no contest for me whether, fighting game wise, this thing is way out of its league, just in a different land in terms of short, concise, pretty good narrative. That being said, I think 11 was more fun in the story. I think 1 is trying to do a more, I don't know. It sounds
again, it's shaping a new foundation for what they want to do going forward. It's not on its own the most exciting or craziest Mortal Kombat story. It's saying here's where we're starting from again.
Yeah, so it's a fine foundation. And we'll see where it goes in terms of DLC. Did they do narrative? I know they did for 11.
Well, they did Aftermath, but I don't think they did in the previous 2.
I don't remember. I don't think they did, actually.
Just characters,
just
right?
characters and like accoutrement for them.
I could see them doing where this one winds up, them doing side story stuff for some of these characters, because there's a lot of, it felt like in this one, there's a lot more fleshing out the realms in ways that maybe they haven't before. Like I have no idea what Chaos and Order realm are supposed to be. I don't know.
Those are, I had to look that up. I think those are like the Weapon Fighter era stuff.
They are.
Those are
like Havoc is a Weapon Fighter era character.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't know, like the vampire realm.
Order realm is like, okay, Nether realm sounds cool. It's like hell. Earth realm, sure, I get it.
Chaos realm is okay.
Even Chaos realm makes sense, but then when they said Order realm out loud, like,
so was that a joke? Like, is Order Realm invented for this? Because I
don't think I've ever heard the words Order Realm before.
I'm pretty sure it's from those old games.
Okay.
Because when I looked up Havoc, it said Havoc was from Chaos Realm, and then Havoc says he's challenging.
He wants to take over Order Realm.
He wants to take over Order Realm, and I was like, oh, is this a Liu Kang thing where he changed Chaos Realm to Order Realm, and Havoc is trying to fight the system?
Looks like Order Realm was at least around as of Deception, if not earlier.
Okay.
So why is Outworld Outworld and not Outrealm?
Outworld, they like to do things a little different.
Outworld always had the sense to me that it's the like Casablanca of realms, where like, you kind of go there and funnel in from all the different realms, and everybody's just trying to take over whatever.
I'm looking at the characters that exist in Order Realm, and I have heard of none of them. None.
How about
Hotaru? Okay, Darius is apparently from there.
Yeah, he comes over with Havoc. Who's Shang Tsung's? Not Shang Tsung's. Shao Kahn or Khan's. General Shao's kind of first in command.
Reiko.
Yeah, okay.
He's an MK4 character.
Reiko is an MK4 character, and that's a weird one because there was an ending from one of those games around then. I think it's not 4, it's a later one that implies Reiko becomes Shao Kahn or something weird. But I don't know. That's probably completely abandoned for this.
Do we also know in MK lore? Sorry, I'm going to use you guys as my MK lore pit crew here. Do we know who General Shao's dad is in the MK lore? I think, as far as I know, that's never been referenced before. It's a couple of references in the narrative mode. It's like, your dad,
yes.
And it's like,
do we
know who that is? Yeah. Okay. Do we know who Sindel's husband is in the
Jared? Jared's been mentioned before.
Yeah, I don't know if he had a name back in the day, but it was straight up part of like her story from 3.
She was resurrected, right?
Yes,
originally.
3.
She had the glowy eyes. Wasn't she like some kind of?
She was like bewitched in 2 or in 3 rather. Sorry, she was not in 2.
Okay.
In 3, she was like under Shao Kahn's spell, I think, and like he had to like marry her to merge the realms, I think was how that went.
I think that's they talk about that in this game.
Yeah, because then
okay.
Dude, it's so fucking stupid, like playing through 11 again, and the fact that everybody can die and be made a revenant, which means they're like an evil zombie version of themselves, but then even those can be turned back into living versions again.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens to her. But then they bring her back and she seems good, but then she turns evil again. And it's like, wait a minute, like, I thought you were just under Shao Kahn's spell and that's why you were bad. And then it turns out she's just actually an awful person. Anyway, it's dumb.
For what is going on in MK1 and all the questions you guys have brought up and the legitimate things you've said about the story, the only thing that I found to be confusing was often they would say, thank the Elder Gods, and Liu Kang would say, thank the Elder Gods. Are in the Pantheon.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Liu Kang became a Titan, which is above an Elder God, right? And then busted himself back down. So did he recreate the Elder Gods?
I don't think he became a Titan, did he? So Kronika was a Titan. I can't believe we're talking about this.
No, we have to, because this is the insane shit.
But he became Time Lord, right?
Yes.
Kind of. Well,
he killed the Time Wizard.
He merged with Raiden, who is a demigod. It's like from bottom to top, it's like demigod, Elder God, Titan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Kronika is the only Titan. It seems more like he merged with Raiden and got Raiden's powers, but then he just took control of the hourglass. Like, he didn't actually become a Titan. He got a hold of Kronika's... Again, I can't believe he got a hold of Kronika's crown. Remember, he needed the crown to use the hourglass, so once he got that... Like, he kind of assumed her role, but I don't think he took all of her powers. I don't know.
Well, what he said was...
He renounces some powers in one.
Well, specifically, he renounces the responsibility of being the Time Wizard. You know, like, he does it in order to shape the new timeline, but then he recreates a Garrus, who then puts in charge of running the hourglass while he goes and becomes the new Raiden for Earthrealm.
I started to bring that up earlier. Like, that's kind of the one interesting aspect of the fact that he just remade everything the way it is that I've seen so far, is that there is this element of he kind of didn't want the responsibility of having to do everything over again. So he kind of just snuck off to be the new Raiden on Earth and let somebody else worry about it.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning of one, he says he saw how maddening it was for Kronika.
It drove Kronika insane to have to, like, make the entire universe.
Which is fair. But again, the thing that is unclear, and still unclear to this date, is Kronika God? Like, that's capital kind of, G God.
Like, that's where it seemed like it was at in 11 to me, was that she is the ultimate power, but, like, it's fucking Mortal Kombat. Like, guaranteed there's at least somebody else above her.
Like, the thing they come with is that she is the one who created all the Mortal Kombat gods, but there is no evidence of who created her or what was there before she was doing any of this.
Like, the layers of power creep and like guy behind the guy behind the guy in this series from literally game one on. It's like hilariously stupid.
There's always another guy. Like, there's always another god.
It was Shang Tsung, and then it was Shao Kahn, and then it was Quan Chi, and then it was Shinnok, and now there's,
And then it was literally the concept of time personified as a pissed off lady.
Are there... Okay. Again, we will go take our break and get out of here, but Liu Kang is Earthrealm protector. Are the other realms supposed to have protectors?
I don't know.
They do in the previous lore.
They do.
Who are they?
Yeah. Well, they don't talk a lot about it, but there are other elder gods, and I think one of them is like an outworld figure, if I remember correctly. One of the elder gods is like the protector of outworld.
Because Raiden's not an elder god.
No,
Raiden's
he's like
a demigod.
Yeah, demigod.
Yeah, the only elder gods I know of by name are Shinnok and Cetrion.
Yeah, Cetrion from 11, right?
Who's like the kind of good mirror to Shinnok.
And then, were there other Titans? Or was Kronika the only one?
I don't know. They allude to the idea that there could be, but they never show another one or talk about another one.
Kronika does say at one point when Liu Kang challenged, or somebody, maybe Shang Tsung challenges her in Aftermath, she's like, what the fuck are you doing stepping to me? I'm a Titan. Like, I'm a Titan, as if
not the Titan.
Not the Titan.
Maybe there are others. I don't know.
So, like, if we're pulling from, mythology, there's probably a life and death one,
apparently,
right?
I'm fucking, here we are on...
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Here we are on fandom.com.
Giant Bomb's fandom.
As all things must inevitably lead to.
That's right. You can remake the podcast however you want. We'll wind up on fandom.
The Titans are a race of primordial beings that predate the Elder Gods, other races, and the realms themselves, but emerged after the one being.
Oh, the one being. Okay,
yes.
We're going to take a break.
It's literally Christian God. That's what it's going to be. It's all gonna, this is actually going to loop back around. It's going to be like the fucking Juggalo Joker's cards. It's all actually just going to be about Christianity and God in the end, isn't it?
It's going to wind up with new Raiden sitting in a room, and it's going to be Ed Boon sitting there with like a pencil in his ear, kind of be like, it's me.
Yep.
I'm the one.
I'm the god.
And be like,
actually, that would be amazing if at the end of all of this, you finally unlock the darkest secret of who is the true god of all things Mortal Kombat, and you walk in there and it is a pleasant Midwestern man going, "Hey, how's it going?"
It's I'm just and then at the end of that game, post credits, it's John Tobias it's bursting into a room being
Ed Boon runs heaven, John Tobias runs hell. There you go. That's it.
It's John Tobias' fists coming through the ground. Get over here. There is another. All right, let's take a break before we get too far deep into this. We'll never come back. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back with a couple more games. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Alex Navarro, Brad Shoemaker. VPN. Do you know when you need them?
Oh, you need them, and you know when you need them. You don't want to go on that internet unprotected.
I was just traveling around. I used ExpressVPN. I was in a hotel room. I used it to get on the public Wi-Fi, and I've used ExpressVPN for a bunch of years now, mostly traveling around. But sometimes I would use it at home when I'm feeling that need for a little extra security. Just belt and suspenders, you know? Mm-hmm. Want to get that VPN on.
Look, sometimes you need a little me time, even on the internet.
Just me, without the other eyeball. The other thing that is good, if you're traveling around, they say you're traveling around internationally and you need to ping back home, and I want to watch my favorite shows back home, you can set your location back to the States, let's say, and get what you need from back inside using that location. ExpressVPN, blazing fast speeds, compatibility with all your devices, and encrypts your data. Get the most out of your internet connection and get your money's worth over at expressvpn.com/Nextlander. And don't forget to use the link expressvpn.com/Nextlander to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Thanks, ExpressVPN. All right, we are back, and we've got more video games, not just MK. Some other stuff quickly we'll get through here, but doesn't mean it is of any less value. Forza Motorsport, Alex Navarro.
Yes.
You played some of this, not a lot, but a little bit. What'd you see?
Yeah, they put out a preview build for some folks to check out as part of their... I had never done this before, the weird like Xbox preview program thing that you can sign up for.
Like the Insider Hub kind of thing.
I had never messed with that really at all before.
It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome for people like us who have to like do work with this stuff and have a long history of like needing to sign a thing to get a debug console and then get a disc in the mail that will run on the said console. You know what I mean? Like, it was around the time the Series X came out, or maybe even before, that they just started saying like, "Hey, send us your gamer tag, and we will just like opt you into being able to download this preview build of this game." Mm-hmm. On a retail console. Like, it's awesome.
It's a lovely thing to have for people in our line of work. But so this is my first time doing that, and so this was for the new Forza Motorsport, and it wasn't a big preview. Like, it was, I think, 3 main races and like 2 of like the tutorial races that they're going to have. Just kind of like hey, we're just dropping you in the middle of a race kind of thing. And then they gave you a couple of like bigger ones to race through with a handful of cars to try. But you know, Forza Motorsport, this is their sim series. This is not the Horizon, you know, sort of goof around in a random biome and fucking drive a Buick through all of it. This is more here's your serious motorsport game. And the thing you don't get a feel for from this preview build is one of the main things that I think was kind of the problem in the more recent Forza Motorsport games, which is to say the economy and the leveling and the way they were monetizing those games was a thing that made people so mad that they totally changed the economy in Horizon 4 and 5 to make it incredibly easy to unlock a million things fast. So none of that is really in this build that they showed, but the other thing you might want to know is, does it still feel like a really good, solid driving sim? Does it still have things
Seems important,
like the racing lines, and is the car feel good? Do the cockpits look good? The answer on all those fronts is yes. It has a very good drive feel to it. The car detail, look, I mean, we're at a point now where cars have looked as photoreal as maybe they can get for at least a few years now. I can't say to you that the cars I drove looks that much better than what, let's say, the last Gran Turismo did, or what they look like in the most recent Horizon game, but they do look very good.
I'm excited to see it in person because they have been pushing it as a tech showpiece for the Series X, like ever since they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been saying, like, hey, Forza will do 4K 60 with ray tracing on the Series X. Like we are committing to that day one.
Yes.
Like this is going to be the graphical showpiece for this new console, and here we are 3 years after that console came out with this game not out yet. So I really want to see it in person just from that standpoint. But like, I'm hoping what you're saying just means that, I guess you kind of did say this, like we have just hit the plateau of car realism already. And like
they'll always look better, but they've just looked of a fidelity where I feel like you're almost in has the grass look in Madden
totally
land.
And it does have multiple graphical settings. There is, your standard performance and your standard fidelity mode, and then there's an in-between one, which is ray tracing on the track, but not, I think, everywhere. So, like, I think when you're, like, close up on the track, the cars and the things that are, like, the primary details are getting the ray tracing, but maybe you don't see it as much in some of the, like, background elements. I tried all of them. I can't say that any of them looked like definitively massively better or different than one or the other. I mean, you notice the frame rate difference, but that's kind of about it for me, at least. But it does look very sharp. It looks fantastic. And, a couple of little things here and there, like, it seems like, I don't remember if it's been long enough since the last Motorsport. I don't remember if they had added this last time or not. When you know how they're like very sticklers about collisions and how like that can get like time penalties and stuff when you're doing serious racing, it seems like there is something going on under the hood where when you make contact with another car, it is deciding on the fly whether that is a penalty or not. So I think as long as you're not ramming into people and doing like dumb shit, those penalties can be passed. Like, say, no penalty for the little bit of contact that you did, which I think for people who are perfectionists might help you not use the rewind function as much.
So rubbing can be racing?
Yeah, it is.
What you're saying?
A little bumper to bumper's okay.
All rubbing is racing, but not all racing is rubbing.
It's true. That is 100% right.
Forza Motorsport, that game comes out October 10th, I guess. I don't know
like
if
2
there's
weeks
any
from
kind
now,
of
yeah.
early preview, something, or it's just everybody gets it when you get it. Obviously, Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't know. They did that. Like Starfield was the prominent example, obviously, this year, where a bunch of people were sinking $30 into a game they're not even going to own in perpetuity just to play it early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know if Forza, I don't know if they're going to do that with all their first party stuff or if that was a Starfield special.
Yeah, I don't know. That's soon. That's about a month away. Less than that.
I'm definitely looking forward to it now that I've played a little of it, and I'm like, yep, all right, I'm ready for one of these.
Moving on quickly here, some of the stuff I got up to, let's say during the break.
Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. We have to there is an obvious segue here.
Do it.
Okay.
I have to insert this here.
Racing.
Talk about one racing game.
Yes.
With apologies to Forza Motorsport, I have been playing the racing game of the year. F-Zero 99.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Have you guys played this? It's fucking awesome.
I've seen some people playing it.
Man.
I haven't downloaded or tried it yet, and which is weird because I am maybe one of the last F-Zero holdouts in the world at this point of demanding more F-Zero, so I feel like I should try this.
Oh, it's so good, man.
Okay.
Like, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is 99-player F-Zero, which was never multiplayer to begin with. This is F-Zero for the SNES. Like, they made the correct decision and based this on the Super Nintendo version. It is, for me, it is absolutely the best one of these they've done since Tetris 99.
Okay.
Nothing will ever touch Tetris 99, but this is really good.
So is it just you keep racing around the tracks until there's only one car left, or?
No. It's just like it's generally 3-lap races. There's a bunch of modes, but it's 99 it's 99 F-Zero cars on a track at one time. If you've played F-Zero for the Super Nintendo, you can imagine what that is. It's basically, to a degree, turning it into bumper cars. They've added a bunch of stuff to it, like you got a spin attack that on a cooldown that you can use to hit people. The coolest thing about it is your health is also your boost meter.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a constant push-pull of... you're taking a lot of damage because you can't not, with 98 other cars slamming around all over the place. So it's a constant push-pull of, should I burn some more health to try to get a leg up here? Because they do a safe cutoff every lap. Like, I think it varies by mode, but it'll be like, hey, you got to finish better than 90th on this lap to stay in the race, and then it's like, now you got to finish better than 60th to stay in the race.
Okay.
So it's a constant, and you get some like pretty hairy, like stressful finishes of like, man, I could probably just barely eke out one more boost here, but then I'm gonna die in like one hit if I do that. Like, do I really want to take that chance? And like, I have eaten shit in ways I really wish I hadn't. They have like Grand Prix, and like you're basically earning tickets. You level up playing regular matches, regular tracks, and then you earn tickets, and you can cash those in on like multi-race Grand Prix, which are timed events. And I've been on the last lap of the last race of a Grand Prix that I sunk tickets into, meaning I had to earn those tickets and lost them to enter, and died on the last lap of the last race of that event because I tried to like push one boost too many.
Oof.
And is it you die, you're out of the race?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're out of the cup. Like if you're doing one of those like Grand Prix, like I've also died on the first lap of the first race in one of those Grand Prix, and you're just out. You're just out the tickets you spent to play 20 seconds of the game. You're ranking up. You're earning all kinds of cosmetics. There are skins for the cars, typical multiplayer stuff to unlock. So you want to do the events for that stuff. There are team battles that are much more combat focused. Like you earn points for like knocking people out on the other team and stuff like that.
The cars have properties like
it's the 4 cars from the original, and I have stuck with the Fire Stingray.
Okay,
as an extremely intelligent F-Zero fan with good opinions.
Is that Samurai Goro?
Yeah, that's Samurai Goro.
Yeah. Him and Pico were the only two I ever played.
The Wild Goose, is that the doctor?
That sounds right.
No, he's the Golden Fox.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's the Wild Goose is Pico, the green one.
Okay, I only ever used Samurai Goro back in the day. What else? There's another mechanic where you're picking up like what are essentially coins dropping out on the track all over the place, and there occasionally will be a giant NPC car you can ram to get a bunch of the coins.
Huh.
And when you fill up your coin meter, it basically sends you to heaven. Like it spawns another floating track above the track where you can't take damage or get hit by people. And there will be other people up there with you if they happen to also pop that at the same time. But it's literally just a get me the fuck out of this mess of cars ability for like the next 15 seconds whenever you fill that up with coins, just so you can like get some boost time to yourself.
Oh, I'm watching a video of it now. It looks like it also goes straight sometimes where other people are in hairpin turns.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you can gain a little ground.
Yes, you're gaining placement by popping that ability. It's awesome. Wild. It's really fun. It's very fun. The matches are very quick, and like there's actual strategy to risk rewarding with the boost and stuff like that. It's very good.
And
it's
their
free.
distribution.
It's
okay.
It's
is it free to everyone or free to
well
people
to
who have
Nintendo Switch Online people? But you would have to have that to play multiplayer games anyway. So
fair.
Like Nintendo's fucking awesome sometimes. Like when they just like hey, here's a game. Here's a whole ass game as a subscriber benefit. It's not like $5 off this DLC pack that you could buy anyway or something like that. It's like, hey, we made an entire game for you to enjoy because you subscribe to our service.
Yeah.
And this one is a good one.
Let's hope they keep it up for a while.
Yes.
And don't shut it down.
Yeah, they did shut down Pac-Man 99 or are going to, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Super Mario 35 is at.
I want to say that one may have shuffled off as well.
Oh, next month, Pac-Man 99 is shutting down. But Tetris is still going strong, so they support the ones that do well.
Tetris Online is going.
Yeah, Tetris 99 is absolutely still going.
F-Zero 99 available currently $0 unless you got to pay for that subscription. What was I going to say? Trine 5 is the one I played a bunch of. Not a lot to say because it is very Trine-like. I will say that game I've been playing a lot with my kids. It is maybe the best family experience I've had playing a game so far. And we played a lot of games. It's
ever
awesome. Yeah, I'll say everybody. It might just be a time and place thing for my family too. Like my son's 11, my daughter's 9. This game involves enough. They're at a place with their game playing, and this game involves enough, but not too much of what we all have to have a really fun time. It's 3 players. Each player gets to have their role if they want. So it's kind of dedicated and puzzle solving like that. We're just having a lot of fun with it. Good. It's forgiving. And you get a lot of power-ups, which I wasn't expecting. So you get new abilities throughout the game which kind of keeps things a little fresh. It doesn't get as stale as you might think it might get as you're moving through, because you're suddenly the wizard is able to stick objects together, or the wizard or the knight can make a clone of himself, right? And that adds a lot of gameplay stuff that's super fun. So I'm going to say big thumbs up for Trine 5. It's longer than I thought too, because we have played a lot of it. And it just keeps going. I think we're probably in the back 25% now, but man, it's cool. I haven't been back
still bringing it on those.
We're playing on the PC, and it's been a lot of fun over there. Another game that I'll mention here quickly, The Many Pieces of Mr. Coup, is a point-and-click adventure game with a really interesting art style. It looks like, I don't know if you guys watched a lot of the Sesame Street or 70s style animation.
Yes.
But it's got that vibe to it of like very 70s, like those HBO interstitial things. Like it's got a vibe that reminds me of that. The Many Pieces of Mr. Coup is very well animated.
What was that? Schoolhouse Rock is what I'm trying to think of.
Sure.
This looks kind of like Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah, it's got that vibe. And it's fun. It's short. It's very point and click adventure-y, but not. It's more Kuchel-esque, that style of like, oh, you have a scene and you're going to do a thing in this scene, and then the scene's going to be over. So very cool, not very expensive, not very long either. Maybe it might be available on, I don't think it is, but it seems like it could be available on mobile, but I'm not seeing it released here on mobile. One of those types of games where you're like, oh, is this on mobile first? The controls are very like tappy. But it's fun for the scenes, like very imaginative, very creative. And finally here, aside from Baldur's Gate 3, which I'll just say I think I'm in Act 3 now, taking my time with that one, pushing ahead. The final DLC for what has been reclassified as Golden Idol Mysteries, or the Case of the Golden Idol? Is that what it was?
It is no longer just the Case of the Golden Idol. It's many cases.
Golden Idol Mysteries, the Lemurian Vampire dropped, and I finished that. Probably not my favorite of all of it. I think, obviously the initial game, bigger and a little more robust. The second piece of DLC I really liked. This one, though, interesting in its own right, brings you up to speed with where the first game takes place. It's another prequel. So, very cool. I'm glad those are out there. I'm really bummed out there won't be more of those. I want more of those. Make more of those types of games.
You've heard the demand. Make more of those.
I hope they were very successful. They were great. It was just more of a public service announcement. If you didn't know, there's more of that content out there. Golden Idol Mysteries, the Lemurian Vampire, out now. And like I said, Baldur's Gate 3.
Still going.
Continues to exist.
Still going. My characters are out there saving the world. Just one battle at a time. One quick load at a time. Fun game.
Maybe they'll have finished patching Act 3 by the time you get there.
Are they still dropping patches for that stuff?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like big content. I assume they would. They said they would.
Act 3 stuff in particular, I don't know.
I know they'd put out like the Karlach story stuff and epilogue stuff in there too. So I assume they'll just keep going forever, and then some point put out new content stuff and new classes. I'm playing on the PC for Baldur's Gate mostly, and then I've switched over now to PC, PS5, so I will bounce back and forth. I really want to put some mods on there, but I think it's going to break my PS5 save, so I'm holding off. But there are so many things. Some days I will just spend 3 hours on the PC doing inventory management, and like that's a thing I feel like could be fixed with some good mods, and people have mods that make bags for certain items and all this stuff, but it's going to break as soon as I bring my save over to the PC. So
you can always try a hard save and give it a shot, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes. But like, probably what's the point? If it works super well, then you have to go back and you're like, this sucks.
Yep. That's always the eternal tension of RPGs that are across PC and consoles. Starfield's the same thing. There's good UI mods out for Starfield already that sure don't do any good for Xbox players.
Right. I did not play any Starfield this week. Still want to go back to it.
I think I might be done with that game.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You done?
It's just not grabbing me as I've tried to dip back into it a couple times, and whenever I do, I ended up fucking around for an hour, maybe doing a quest or whatever, and it's just like nothing is really hooking me in it, and I think there are just other things I'd rather be playing right now.
Yeah, I am going to get back to it, but I was too busy playing like 24 other things on my new TV for 20 minutes apiece, just looking at stuff, gawking. But I do want to play more of it.
I am kind of, I'm probably somewhere between you guys. Like, Alex, I'm not quite done with it, but it's not quite hooking me yet, but I still want to get in there because I see the potential to get deep into something in there. So I want to check it out. Maybe after Baldur's Gate. We're going to wrap up the game stuff there. We've got plenty of news to get to, though. Turns out stuff happened while we were away. So we're going to take another quick break here. We're going to come back. We're going to reset. We're going to start talking about some news. So stick around. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by Factor. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro. Do you guys know what Factor is?
I do. I thought you were about to ask if I knew what food is.
Do you also know what food is?
I've heard of it. It sounds cool.
Do you know what food can be? Factor's here. Factor is here to tell you what food is and can be. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. We've gotten some Factor before. I've actually found it to be quite tasty and delicious and convenient. You can put it in the toaster oven, put it in the microwave. I did the toaster oven. It was ready. I think in the toaster oven was ready between like 10, 15 minutes. Pretty quick. You can choose from over 34 weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals, ready to eat in 2 minutes. You can level up with Gourmet Plus options prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time. Ooh, you could treat yourself to upscale meals with premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus. Not that regular butter, truffle butter. Round out your meals and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of over 45 add-ons, including breakfast items like apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillet. Oh man, Factor,
man.
what are you doing to me, Factor? With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions, source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. Head to factormeals.com/Nextlander50 and use code Nextlander50 to get 50% off. That's code Nextlander50 at factormeals.com/Nextlander50 to get 50% off potato, bacon, and egg breakfast skillet. Thanks, Factor. And we are back. And it is time to get into the news. Now, there are pretty much 2 gigantic stories here. We got the Xbox news, we got the Unity news. Let's kick it off, Brad Shoemaker, with the Xbox, Microsoft stuff. What is going on?
Is this the biggest leak in video game history of internal documents from a major company? Probably.
Oof.
It's way up
Doofa.
there. I don't know if it's C, but
set this one up for folks.
Feel like this has been happening repeatedly?
Not in
lately.
this way.
A bunch of unredacted documents were unintentionally made available through the FTC's, document discovery process, uploaded to a government server. I don't know the specifics of exactly why these documents got out there, although the FTC said it's Microsoft's fault.
So it sounds like, from what I could see, FTC requested this stuff. Microsoft sent them the link to the thing. They were uploaded to the repository, and then Microsoft was like, whoa!
Hey, buddy.
FTC has since taken it down. That's the FTC's stance on it. I guess they sent them some unredacted pages attached to their PDF.
That's something along those lines is my understanding. I mean, the long and short of it is that unredacted documents that Microsoft did not want out there got out there.
Yep.
And boy, there's some stuff in here.
Where should we start?
The biggest stuff is there are straight up pictures, or at least mock-ups in here of the new mid-generation refresh of the Series X and the new controller. They apparently are coming out with.
We should probably say this stuff. This stuff has a spread for a couple of years here. It's not currently up to date.
It's not. Yeah, it's not clear to me. Like there are some emails in here, and those obviously have dates on them. And there's some stuff you can date against, like their acquisition schedule. You know, where they're saying like, oh, we're looking at ZeniMax as a target for acquisition. Right. So that's pre like 2020 or whatever. But then it's these pictures of this new hardware that confuses me. Like that seems like that would have to be quite a bit newer, and in fact, like fairly recent.
And like last couple of years, I would.
Yeah, because obviously they're not like planning and slapping specs on console refreshes before the original console is even out, right? So like these slides could not be that old, I don't think.
So I mean, knowing how hardware stuff moves at the rate that it generally does, it's possible they were making those pitches around the time that the Series X was launching, but I don't imagine any of that stuff was locked in by then.
Yeah, I mean, this could be like late 2021 or something like that.
So the emails have dates from 2020 to 2022. Phil Spencer has...
Okay, if there are emails that recent, then that makes these slides make more sense. Phil
Spencer has gone out there in a statement and an internal statement, and I don't know if it's been external as well, and said, hey, this stuff is outdated. Which, you know, there's a lot to go over here. I just want to state out of the gate here, Microsoft and Phil Spencer are saying these are not concrete roadmaps. These are not concrete plans. These are documents that were submitted for this case that were in flux or in change or in development. So that being said, yes,
yeah,
Brad.
like it's, you know, they haven't made a single statement about the veracity of any of this stuff. So for all we know, like this version of this Xbox could be canceled by now, or like the design could be completely different by now, or something.
It's not
like
meant
that.
to be public.
Yeah. So this is
but
not
what do we
necessarily exactly what we're going to get. It's the same Series X internally. It is the Series X Slim, I guess is what I'm trying to say, not a Series X Pro. Like in the grand tradition of console refreshes, it's the one that is smaller and quieter and cooler, not the one that is more powerful.
With a slightly bigger hard drive, or double, I guess.
Yeah, they're doubling the, supposedly, according to this thing, twice the internal storage, 2 terabytes, USB-C on the front, Wi-Fi 6E built in, newer version of Bluetooth, way lower power consumption. Like that's kind of basically those are the big bullet points of this newer Xbox. Also, this photo is a little hard to read, but it seems like some kind of oblong cylinder now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is a bummer to me as a big fan of the brick.
Yep.
That they have currently. They should have just made a smaller brick.
Love my rectangle.
Fuck, man. Like it's the thing that it doesn't have that is the actual story here. There's no disk drive.
Yep.
Right. Yes.
Like that's the actual thing, because they already have the Series S, which is digital only out there. But now this would essentially be removing optical discs from their entire product line. And that is the thing that is obviously making some waves.
Also the least surprising thing in the world, because let's be real, like I own a disc PS5 and there are literally a dozen other people like me.
I think I've put one disc in my PS5 so far. And that was just an old game I wanted to try briefly.
I care about these drives. Most people do not anymore.
I mean, I will get consoles with disk drives in them as long as they make them available.
Same.
But obviously the numbers bear out that this is the right way for them to go, or they wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I think I saw some math going around that something like 70% of current PlayStation game sales are digital at this point.
That's interesting. They don't make those numbers super public, so it's nice to actually hear a figure put on that.
I can't tell you if that's 100% accurate or not, but that's what I saw being kicked around.
I mean, it would be great to have the option for discs in perpetuity, but nothing ever survives. No feature ever survives like disuse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as soon as things stop being commonly used, they're going to. Like, that goes for everything, not just storage.
So this is the codenamed Brooklyn with an I, Brooklyn console. That's the refresh, which was according to their documents, was slated to come out in October 2024 for $500.
Same price.
Yeah, this is the kind of Series X refresh.
Now adorably all digital, says this slide.
Look, they're testing their stuff out.
This is internal, you know?
But
Yes.
maybe even more interesting is the, there's the S refresh, which was the L wood, right?
There's an S refresh listed on here, which still looks like an S. 1 terabyte of storage, which they've announced already, although it's a black Series S that they showed publicly. Same guts or same hardware changes as the X here, like the die shrink, smaller SoC that makes it cooler and quieter, the same new Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, like all the same like tech improvements. But still a Series S.
But the gamepad you mentioned.
Yeah, this is like a cool looking gamepad.
Yeah.
Modular sticks that can be user replaced. It's finally got an accelerometer in it. Microsoft, thank you.
So accelerometer, but not a gyroscope. So
No.
accelerometer for detecting, like when you lift it up or down.
This says it has a in the approachability section under subsection engage and delight. They list lift to wake. So yeah, it's like the controller would go to sleep and then wake up when you pick it up type stuff. I doubt they're like doing motion controls. Or
I don't think
anything.
I don't think the accelerometer has enough fidelity to do
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's like a standard suite of sensors for like good motion controls that are more than an accelerometer. What is it? It's replaceable sticks, rechargeable but swappable battery.
Right.
The lift to wake stuff, better haptics, like haptic feedback stuff.
Newer Bluetooth, which would compare with the consoles. Newer, whatever Microsoft's proprietary back and forth is with.
The Xbox Wireless 2, I guess they call it here. They're actually burying the lead here. Quieter buttons and thumbsticks. I hate how loud the current Series controller is.
It is a little clacky.
It's way too clacky. So.
Two-tone, which I didn't love. But,
I think it looks kind of interesting.
So the thing
$70.
Thing that might be interesting here is this kind of pairs with another slide, and it's not necessarily made clear here about their hybrid approach in the further future here, and how this controller would be what do they call it, the hero of the system, where it is possible this controller will be directly connected to Wi-Fi in some way.
Yeah, that was the Stadia innovation. It sounds like they would be doing the same thing here. Of the controller connects directly to the internet connection that goes straight to the server. Because if there's no Xbox intermediary, then that's the fastest way to get your inputs to where the game is being done.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this stuff is not meant for announcement. It's not meant for public. This stuff, again,
and
I'm
is
just saying,
maybe not even fully accurate at this point.
Yeah,
this is full of like this or this. Like this is so. I mean, to be clear, this is the next Xbox. This is the actual 2028, like the PlayStation 6 equivalent next Xbox, scheduled for 2028, which is not as far off as you think.
Right, and according to these documents, they're trying to lock in silicon. They're trying to like make sure they have a platform for this stuff because they have to figure it out. Brad, you know much more about this than I do, but they're talking about
these
things that aren't even available yet, right?
These decisions may have been made at this point, probably have been, I would assume, but even that, I'm just guessing. But yes, like you have to make these decisions for like what a console spec is going to be, like years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's as big as like, hey, should we move to ARM or should we stick with x86 on this thing? It's like that up in the air about the design of this thing.
What's Navi 5?
Navi is AMD's GPU architecture.
Okay.
Or RDNA. Actually, I've lost track of. RDNA is their actual GPU architecture. What does Navi encompass? They may be interchangeable. It's GPU stuff. Zen is the AMD CPU stuff, and Navi/RDNA. There may be some nuance there. Is the GPU stuff, and I have no idea what an NPU is. That sounds like, what would the N stand for? I see machine learning. Machine learning mentioned here.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's some kind of like, how much hardware should we put on here for machine learning acceleration versus general compute type stuff. The big thing out of the slide, though, is it sounds like they're going back to that Xbox One era pitch of, hey, we're going to process a bunch of your games in the cloud now. Like, you're still going to have a box.
Right.
And do the things that need to be super low latency locally, but also use all this compute we have in the cloud to I think, didn't I see the phrase like light up multiple blades?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to do things for the player that'll light up multiple blades. By blades, they mean like server racks. You know,
Right.
It's like, hey, we can like leverage multiple compute instances to do like crazy ass things in games and just send that data home to the player.
Which never really, I mean, Flight Simulator does some of that, I think, but like never really took hold. Microsoft has Azure, right? That's their big cloud AWS-ish thing.
It's a big business for them. I mean, they're not AWS, but they're quite big with it.
Which never came really to big fruition. Again, having offline consoles was part of that.
I think it was just too early, really.
Maybe too early.
Like I think like both maybe infrastructure build out and also just conceptually people didn't quite know what to do with it yet. But this is kind of the entire world of computing now.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems pretty obvious that things like this are going to become an actual factor in the next decade for games.
So as their kind of hybrid approach, they're talking about a smaller, I think in one of their slides they say $99 retail box could get you access to their quote unquote next generation of games, where you kind of have not a terminal, but maybe more along the lines of a node or terminal that connects in to play games. It's
unclear if that's the same $99 thing that they teased more publicly last year and then ended up canceling.
The thing that was on the shelf at some point.
Yeah, that whole thing of like, oh, Microsoft's doing an Apple TV thing, but then they said they're not doing that anymore, so they may have abandoned that. You know, they've got the xCloud app rolling out on Samsung TVs now, so it seems like they're probably just going to try to go straight to TVs and stuff.
It's, you know, it's really interesting to look at in terms of if you remain with a grain of salt and take a step back and don't get too invested in these things.
Too late for that, man.
Right. You need to realize that these are documents that are planning documents and things are subject to change. I think one of the things that was interesting, I forget from whom, maybe it was Nadella said it, like, we've got so many things on the horizon here, we need to cut it down and focus. I'm trying to look for the quote. We've got cloud everything, a hybrid Xbox, hybrid Windows, hybrid HoloLens. We need to bring the company's systems talent together to align on a unified vision. We can't go from big idea to big idea. We need a single big idea to rally the company around, which it's really interesting to see their thought process.
Yeah. That's been his kind of management methodology since he took over, was like, hey, services are the future of Microsoft. Like, we are going to build everything we do around ongoing services now.
And it sounds like one of those pitches was make the controller the thing and have the controller be the central focal point, and then it'll expand out from there. So interesting to see. I mean, look, these companies, we've talked about it before. Brad, you can probably speak to it much more, have to lock in their stuff early. So this is stuff that is probably not this, but a version of this is probably deals and handshakes are being made for 2028. Like this, you know, you're going to have to build your pipelines and lock in your tech.
Yeah, but again, it is all subject to change still.
Yeah, totally. Like I would guess that maybe they haven't fully locked in all these specs, but like decisions as big as should we change CPU architecture for the next console, I would guess have been made or are fairly close to being made at this point. Mm-hmm. Like in the next year.
There was a part of the controller that didn't really excite me that much, but the what VCA haptics, where you can use the haptics as a speaker.
VCA haptics is. I never heard that term before.
When I looked it up, or I don't know if it was part of the story you sent over from The Verge, but they showed somebody playing like the Doom soundtrack on the haptics from the Steam controller as an example of that. It didn't seem that amazing to me. I don't really know.
Voice coil actuators, it sounds like.
Yeah. I don't know.
As opposed to linear resonant actuators or eccentric rotating mass.
Maybe it's like the vibrations from like the speakers actually, you know, like I don't know. But that stuff's interesting, and I think even more so it is looking at what Microsoft is thinking for their next shot here, which is something we've talked about a lot. Are they staying in the console business? Are they not? And from this slide, which is a point in time for them, they were looking at this hybrid approach at some point. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, you know, obviously we could get a couple of years away from this and they could pull out, you know, until they're actually making boxes, things could change, but it is a pretty interesting roadmap.
Some other interesting stuff here.
Yes, this Bethesda roadmap. What do we have here? Doom Year Zero.
Uh-huh.
Obviously the thing that leapt out to me. Well, so Do we have a date on this the ZeniMax stuff?
For when they were purchased, or
No. When this
system
game
went up?
roadmap is from, it starts at fiscal year 20, so I'm guessing it was before that. It must be, because it's got Doom Eternal listed for 20.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Starfield on here for 21, and Redfall. Granted, a global pandemic happened.
They're
in their
only off by
defense.
2 years. That's not crazy.
And there are some documents and emails talking about like this is not a good thing, Starfield getting delayed, but what stuff happened.
Yes, yeah. There's a ton of stuff in here where there's no possible way we could go through even a tenth of it. But the stuff that's okay, the Bethesda games that are new on here, Oblivion Remaster is mentioned for 2022. That's been rumored for ages, so that's probably real. There's also a Fallout 3 remaster on here, probably also real, because why wouldn't they do that? Some stuff that you can only guess at, like Project Kestrel and Project Platinum. Who could say?
Love a good project name.
Doom Year Zero was listed for 23 back in this. Like, there are 2 Doom games on this release list. Like, that's how old this is. This thing starts right before Doom Eternal was to ship, and then also 3 years later has another game called Doom Year Zero.
Yeah.
If that's even an in-software game, though, is to be determined, right? Like, that could be, like, they've got, like, a Doom mobile game in production right now from somebody completely different, right? Like, that could be something totally, some other use of the Doom IP that has nothing to do with its next game.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something in granted, I didn't finish Doom Eternal, so I don't know, but unless there's something in that game's narrative that would mention a year zero, there's no reason to assume that is definitely the next sequel.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Like, there is no Doom prequel to go back to.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. They came up with interesting ideas for the last 2 games. They could certainly come up with something, but that could be anything. Like,
Hell 2, the sequel.
Yeah, sure. That isn't necessarily the next id Software game, but maybe. There's a Ghostwire Tokyo sequel listed on here, which I'm guessing is not happening anymore. Dishonored 3.
Yeah.
Which seems like a go-to if you want Arcane to do some kind of fan favorite thing. I don't know, though. Post Redfall, who can say what's going on with Arcane and whether Dishonored 3 is actually happening?
Also on that slide are revenue forecasts for the titles, which are, kind of interesting, though these are forecasts and you kind of could probably guess the relative success of each thing. Where, look, The Elder Scrolls 6 is doing really well forecasted, and Ghostwire is not doing relatively as well. But it's also interesting to see fall off from fiscal years and these things.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at that column. They project $1 billion in revenue from Elder Scrolls 6 in its release year.
It's a lot.
I don't blame them for that one, honestly.
No.
That doesn't feel like as crazy of a number as maybe it would have some years ago.
If anything, I paradoxically feel like the varied opinions on Starfield are only going to help the next Elder Scrolls. Because I'm pretty sure even the people who are disappointed with Starfield are going to be clamoring for, like, all right, give us the thing you're good at. Like, give us the thing we want from you.
So for relative comparison, Starfield was estimated in its year of release to get $600 million.
Yeah.
And whatever Project Kestrel is somewhere in the middle of this chart at $280 million. So
that's sub Doom Eternal by quite a bit. So, and Project Platinum is half of that or less. So those sound like smaller things.
But again, the interesting thing for Project Kestrel, and again, this is starting to get a little too much into tinfoil hat reading and trying to reread this. Project Kestrel, everything else really kind of falls off a cliff after the first year, except for Project Kestrel, which it is estimated at $280 million the first year, and then $275 million the next year, which makes it sound like some subservice that would have content pumping out, some kind of Destiny-like or something.
Sure.
No way to really know. Elder Scrolls Online, though, also has that similar arc of $200 million the first year, then $190, then $180. So it follows a similar online thing. Yeah, interesting to see what they are going after here, or at least trying to predict. Business.
Look, they're just trying to read the same tea leaves as everyone else. It's just that they have access to more data, so you can kind of assume where they are making their predictions. It is based on hard numbers that we still don't have access to because they weren't in these emails.
Look, companies got to put these things out. It's interesting to see, but we've worked at companies, they have to have some kind of metrics to guide their thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not surprising to see this stuff. It's not supposed to be public.
No.
Oh.
And I think in a weird way, they kind of lucked out on this one that there wasn't more damaging or otherwise embarrassing shit in here. Like, you don't want this. This is not good for Microsoft, but I feel like it could have been 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, and I mean, what even is in here has all been plucked and pulled apart as grist for the fucking console war mill.
Inevitably,
Which is
it
a
always
shame.
will be.
Like, it's fucking people yelling at each other over consoles on social media.
In 2023.
It's getting very old.
So one of the last big things here that we had kind of pulled to talk about, as a good segue, Brad, is this really soft allusion to a Nintendo purchase acquisition, which is it's an email that is in response. It's an email from Phil Spencer responding back to somebody we assume being like, I think it's stated somewhere about, hey, what's up with this? Our acquisitions, I think mainly regarding possible TikTok purchases.
It was about TikTok, which like I went and looked and completely forgot that there was that period where Microsoft seemed like it was going to buy TikTok.
It was talking about it, yeah.
And that fell through, but I think that was kind of like being pushed by the Trump administration. Is that correct?
Yeah,
at the time.
to get it out of it on American soil.
Yes, like because when I went and Googled it, I basically there were a bunch of like Satya Nadella quotes coming up saying like the failed TikTok acquisition was like quote the strangest thing I've ever worked on type stuff. Anyway, this seems like this email came out of that process of pursuing a TikTok acquisition,
and basically like what about Nintendo? And then Phil Spencer. I think Brad, you mentioned this off air, but Phil Spencer doing his best like. Let me tell you about Nintendo.
That would be amazing. It would be great if we could get Nintendo. Here are 2 or 3 reasons why that's not possible.
Yeah.
But of course, that would be the best thing we could get.
Right. They've got a ton of money. They've got money saved up. They know their place in the market.
They don't want to be sold. Like their investors don't want them to mess with what they've got going and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I get why this, on some level, I get why this blew up into a big headline because of Microsoft's recent history of acquisitions. But we can't see the inciting email that both Spencer and another Microsoft executive are both responding to here in what sounds like a slightly defensive way of here's why we're not pursuing Nintendo. But I feel like if we had seen that initial email that kicked off this whole conversation, it might be a different story about this whole thing.
Just a quick point of injection here. Like, it's huge. Nintendo's like talking about buying Nintendo's ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
I think
of course.
they also mentioned Valve in there too. But like,
yes,
they have also. It has also been publicly known they have talked about buying Sega, CD Projekt Red,
right? Like that
From Software, Square Enix.
Like Nintendo was on that list that went around a few weeks ago out of this whole thing of like 90 companies or something that they had evaluated for acquisition. You know,
it's and some do get bought, but like, look. Are they going to get Nintendo? Probably not.
No,
I guarantee you.
Absolutely. I will stake up my reputation on this right now. I will exit this industry if Microsoft ever buys Nintendo.
Ever? I mean, Nintendo might do something weird. I thought Sega would be around for a long time. You never know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that movie has bought them at least another decade.
You're probably right.
You're probably
if not indefinite protection, they are fine.
But the thing I'll say is that I guarantee you, if you were to plumb the depths of Sony's, various business-related emails, and for that matter, Nintendo's, at some point, some executive somewhere has raised the possibility of buying every possible company that is out there.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. That is
I'm surprised Nextlander wasn't on that list.
Yeah, I'm not.
Phil, email me.
We're not that good.
They've really fallen down on the job over there.
Come get me.
Do they see all the value we've created here?
Look, we're here telling people how it is. It's a good point, Brad. It's something we talked about a little bit during our break, which is, yes, people taking stuff and running with it and sometimes taking the worst possible interpretation of things. We were looking at that list of...
I would say most often taking the worst possible interpretation.
I mean, like there is this one bit in here where he basically talks about like, I'm in touch with the former board member of ours who is participating in like some slightly aggressive share buying of Nintendo, and like it's likely he will be pushing for more from Nintendo stock, which could create opportunities for us. Like all he's saying there is like, hey, if enough of Nintendo shareholders want them to start returning more revenue, then maybe there's an opening for some kind of partnership. But like that's not happening. Like that's not going to happen. The entity that he is talking about here owns 2% of Nintendo. Like, a 2% owner of Nintendo is not going to tell Nintendo to do anything.
Nope. That ain't it.
And again, like, they just made $1 billion plus off this movie. Like, Nintendo has a very clear idea of what they want to be doing right now, and they are going to stay that course. And that course absolutely does not include selling to Microsoft.
No.
There's also their list of projections for stuff they were talking about possibly bringing into Game Pass, and what kind of the asks would be for some of those things, which I thought was interesting because there are little notations on the side, which you get to see, like Lego Star Wars on here, which says expected partner ask around 35 million, and then it says wild cards. PC tech readiness timing is questionable, and then parentheses, negative crunch culture press will make them not want to push teams unreasonably.
Like, oh, the horror.
Right, yeah.
I mean, like, in the most cold, callous, business calculating way, I guess that is something you would say is like, hey,
yes,
they're not going to work their developers into the ground to get these projects out.
Yes.
But like,
so these are very short little blurbs. I'm sure they're just trying to get as much of a, they're like little bullet points in here, so they're not going into detail, but everything that has a WP next to it usually ends with, oh, and also shit's changed with Discovery. So heads up, things are different now with Discovery.
Yeah.
It sounds like one of the ones that have made headlines was the Baldur's Gate one, which you guys mentioned to me when we were talking about the break, some people taking second run maybe to mean second rate.
Yes, a bunch of people have misinterpreted that to mean that, whether they're doing so innocently or just because, again, they're just trying to load more ammunition for the console war. I don't know.
So the bullet point says second run Stadia PC RPG, and just a quick reminder, Baldur's Gate 3 was supposed to be a Stadia exclusive.
I completely forgot about that. That's insane.
All did.
Yeah.
It's like hilarious to me to think that Stadia did not even last long enough for that game to ship. Did
Microsoft miss the boat on Baldur's Gate? Definitely.
Yes.
Are they trying to catch up as much ground as they can now to get that thing on an Xbox platform?
Yes.
Definitely. Did Larian underestimate Baldur's Gate? Definitely.
Like everybody did. Like, no,
hey, listen, I did. I like Baldur's Gate in the early access. It was a lot of fun.
Even Larian has been out there saying, like, yeah, we had no fucking idea we were going to smash concurrent player records on Steam. Like, this is, hey, this shit's crazy.
But people need to read what's there and not maybe read what they want to read.
Yes. Second run has been a term in like movie theaters for decades. Like a second run theater is a theater that gets movies that have finished their original theatrical run.
Trying to see if
runs them again a second time.
Stuff that is unannounced on here. Mortal Kombat, they call a crown jewel. They at this point when this thing is out, they call it Mortal Kombat Next. And they also have change of guard at Discovery next to it for like, good luck, we're not going to get this.
I guess
big partner ask on that one.
Yeah, Jedi Survivor looks like the most expensive game on here.
Yes.
$300 million to get that. Now, these are day one, right, on Game Pass? Is that?
I think that's what it's again, sometimes we're just getting these. Yeah.
Surely.
It's an interesting peek into what they're trying to pull together and what the process is for some of these things.
Yeah.
Or what they, look, what a company might think of a game and why it's attractive. It's interesting. I'm just trying to see. There was one other on here that there's a lot of Warner Brothers stuff on here. Suicide Squad's on here. Gotham Knights is on here. Gotham Knights says wild cards, PC tech readiness, which, look, I don't know.
Read this. First of all, what is Assassin's Creed Rift? That's not what ended up becoming Mirage, is it?
No, I think that's whatever their next thing is supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, because it's listed for February 23 here, so that must have been delayed. Anyway, wild cards. It's a 1.5 version of AC 15th anniversary year. Also, more Ubi. I mean, of course, that's just something you jot into the margin here when you're like putting down random thoughts about.
Yeah.
It's just funny to more. Do we want more of this?
It's an interesting peek. All of this stuff. Hey, look, when this stuff went out and I started reading through it, I even had my gut sink and be like, "Oh crap!
I should not be seeing this.
This is not supposed to be out there." It should confirm for people that these companies are running a business and they are making strategic decisions based on cold-blooded, sometimes, calculations for financial reasons. But it's sometimes not. I don't know. It says on here, they're talking about the Return to Monkey Island stuff, and they're like, it's by a legendary designer. So maybe it'll do well.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how glowing they were about Return to Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Nothing against Ron Gilbert or anything.
No. But like, it's
under the harsh light of business, you figured none would be spared.
Yeah. But also, in case we need to clarify, like, Microsoft should not buy Nintendo. Like, I don't know if that needs to be said here, but just in case anybody wants to continue the bad faith readings and think that anybody is arguing for that here.
You know what? I'm gonna be the bad faith one and say no. Actually, I am arguing for that, not because I think it's good for business or the industry, but because that is just the most chaos fucking thing that could happen.
It absolutely. I mean, it would be bad all around, but it would also there is a certain chaotic element of, oh my god, that would be so entertaining to watch everything explode. But like, of course, a console business with 2 platform holders is worse than one with 3. Like, nobody in their right mind would argue that should happen. Like, the point here is not happening. Like people are out there hatching conspiracy theories on Twitter about like, oh look, they're pulling some like investor end run to push them into a vulnerable position, so they have to sell to Microsoft. Like, the fuck are you talking about?
Absolutely not.
This is. I don't know I forget what the date on that email was, if it's even there, but it's probably not too far off from when Xbox Live hit Switch for like Minecraft and stuff, so you can tie in your accounts and all those things. It's probably like talking about partner relationships.
Yeah, Phil Spencer's been public for years about like, we'd love to get Game Pass on Switch. Like, they clearly want to work with Nintendo in some capacity. And also, like, that email, I don't know if we mentioned, was prior to even the ZeniMax acquisition, let alone... I probably weren't even talking about the Activision one yet.
Yeah.
So like that was also this executive going like, hey, what are we buying in the console space? And it's like, well, Nintendo would be great, but we can't do that. But we are looking at Warner Brothers. Actually, we didn't even mention they were looking seriously at Warner Brothers as well. Because if you remember, that was right around the time that Warner was supposed or said to be on for sale. What the games business part of Warner Brothers was supposed to be for sale.
Yeah, that to me was the most believable, viable one.
But that was before they bought both. Before they spent upwards of $80 billion on both ZeniMax and then of Activision, and before they hit all this regulatory stuff, all these hurdles trying to get Activision. Like, if they're barely getting Activision over the line, like, in no world could they complete a Nintendo acquisition. No. Even if they
use Nintendo as the thing that is the third party out there that they still offers market diversity, right? Like,
yes, it undermines the very argument that they presented.
So it's, and even they have, listen, this is what they present to the court. They have said they are third place behind Sony and Nintendo, which would be a really weird acquisition, right, for Microsoft. The other thing is, I'm sure they want to find purchase in Eastern territories where they have struggled, right?
Yeah.
In Japan, in Asia, where, look, if somebody's like, why don't we just buy a Nintendo? And then we'll sell millions of consoles in Asia. And they're like, let me tell you why.
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Like, look, I will be honest, like, I have clung to the naive fantasy for years that a lot of people have of like, man, Nintendo games are awesome. What if they were making them on way better hardware? Like, that would be awesome to see. But like, Nintendo being owned by Microsoft doesn't just get you that. It would be way, way messier than Nintendo just keeps doing what it does, but on faster gear.
I think you're probably more likely, and listen, this is in the realm of complete speculation here, but you're more likely to see Xbox and Microsoft stuff making its way onto Nintendo platforms than you are to see Nintendo stuff making its way the other way. Microsoft has so much more to gain by getting their stuff onto, and their systems onto Nintendo stuff than Nintendo does going the other way. Nintendo is such a self-contained island, and they do just fine.
Yeah.
They do just fine with that. Anything else out of here that is, there's a lot.
That's all I've got. There's all kinds of stuff in here about like investment in xCloud and unredacted emails about Microsoft executives reacting to the PS5 reveal and just all kinds of stuff.
It's out there. Microsoft also trying to do some, reacting to it, being, again, saying, stuff is dated. Please do not take this stuff as gospel for where we are going. But that's a I usually do not have a lot of sympathy for big companies and people who are steering those ships, but man, that's a rough one.
I don't know if sympathy is the word I have. It's just like secondhand. Oh, that sucks. That just sucks.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's kind of cool to see, though. I like kind of neat.
On the outside looking in, it also feels maybe slightly less scummy than some of the other leaks we've been privy to, because this wasn't a hack. This was just one of their dumb legal aids fat fingering an email.
Somebody presumably in the legal profession, but maybe at Microsoft, had the worst day of their career yesterday.
You know, this has happened at least one other time where somebody has uploaded a thing either accidentally or not in the games industry, but this is, look, this is what they say happened with Ron DeSantis's notes, right? Something got uploaded to a part of the internet that wasn't supposed to be accessible. This one sounds like something got attached to a PDF that wasn't necessarily supposed to be there. But also, we gotta figure the internet out, folks.
Nope.
Get yourself hire your brother-in-law's nephew. He can help you out.
Here you go. I figured it out.
Yeah.
Less time on the internet.
What?
That's the only way.
Here, how about this one? Ready? Hey, FTC, I uploaded the document. The password are the last 4 digits of your social security number. Open it up. I'll send you the password in another email. It's a zip file with a password on it. Anyway, well, it sounds like the FTC just put it up because it's in a public repository, and that's what Microsoft sent them. So
yeah, I don't think they knew that it was in there, and well, fuck it, they sent it to us. It's going out. I don't think anybody realized it until it was too late.
No, they're not. They're doing, I think, whatever they need to do there. Anyway, that's a pretty big leak.
Mm-hmm.
It's not scandalous necessarily, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to try and make it into scandalous.
Yeah.
Scandalous, though. Unity. Brad, I listened to some of the tech pod you guys were talking about, some of this. Do you want to kick us off here and kind of...
Sure. I will say
things are changing quickly.
I will say, as an aside, it's been interesting to watch Will Smith morph into a real ass game developer over the last couple of years, because he's definitely seen some shit in the business of games, and this is the primest example you can come up with. Like, I almost wonder, do we even need to talk through the basics? Like, I'm sure everybody, everybody listening to this probably knows more than we do at this point, because we were like semi-disconnected last week. But Unity, try to summarize as quickly as possible. Unity has attempted to levy a retroactive fee on all of its engine licensees, charged by number of game installs of games made on their engine. So probably if people listening to this know, but Unity, a fairly big player in the game development scene for engine. There's Unreal Engine, there's Unity. Unity used a lot in mobile and smaller games. Unity bigger in mobile than I realized. I knew it was like big-ish. I didn't realize it's like kind of fucking everything in mobile, apparently.
It's a lot.
Unity, I remember Unity, I mean, maybe this is where the name comes from too, probably is. I remember it being fairly easy to port to different platforms.
Yeah, that was my very layperson outsider perspective at the time, like 12, who knows, how many years ago.
Yes.
The Unity was the first. Well, yeah, I guess Unreal had some of this too, but they were the first two where I remember hearing like, okay, you can make the game once, and that doesn't make it dead simple to port to other platforms, but at least there are tools there. That's a core philosophy. This is a way to deploy multi-platform much more easily than it has. But yeah, sure.
So it's Unity. So it is a game development platform. It's an engine. It is now. The business of it is run by John Riccitiello, who, that name might sound
my
familiar.
Facebook friend.
Wait, are you still Facebook friends with
I don't
him?
know how I ended up being Facebook friends with John Riccitiello. I certainly did not add him, but somehow I became Facebook friends with him over the years.
2008 was a wild time. Okay.
If you want to see where he's been traveling in Europe, I can tell you.
Got the fuck out.
Wait, sorry.
No, that's not recent. I'm just saying, if you want his vacation photos, I've got them.
Oh, I see. I thought you were...
I don't know where he has not posted in a little bit, I don't think.
I thought you were saying he had to go to ground or something.
So John Riccitiello, probably most famous in our circles for heading up EA back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Ran EA in the Project $10 era. I mean, like, there was some... Whatever, we don't need to turn this into like an assessment of John Riccitiello's career or whatever. Like, there were Mirror's Edge, Dead Space, like there were some good things that came out of
EA originals, that whole thing.
Yeah, like early part of his time at EA,
He's also one of the people that is most notoriously one of the monetization hogs of the C-suite in video games, and a person that is generally considered to be, let's just say, controversial on that front.
Like the people who follow Unity much more closely than I do, and especially who also use it every day, like have kind of said he was the guy who was brought in to bring Unity to IPO, essentially. And so, of course, you're going to need to come in and pump the value of the company significantly for that.
So that all being said, Brad, sorry, that was kind of a sidetrack there. The Unity makes this announcement that
they want to start charging developers based on the number of times people install their game that is made with Unity. And originally, this release went out with like very little context about what that would mean. In terms of if the same person reinstalls it 5 times, does that count as 5 installs? Like that seemed to be the case originally when they announced this. This is a mind-blowing part to me. I assumed on the back end they knew how they were going to track and enforce this when they announced it. Apparently they did not.
And it sounds like even today when I was doing some research, they may still not know.
Yes,
it sounds like at this point they're saying self-reporting.
It's like when it first went out, I was like, all right, there's 2 ways I can think of to do this. You either build like phone home stuff into your engine, into the game client that notifies you the first boot, or you go to the platform holders and ask them for download numbers, or maybe both. And apparently they didn't even really know what they were going to do in that vein when this announcement went out a week ago. And then, yeah, like you said, they have now started floating ideas like users reporting it. Why would you do it? What?
I don't understand what's going on.
It seems like very little thought has been put into the rollout of this news. But like that, it's a retroactive policy.
Backlash. It was
a huge backlash. Like it's a retroactive policy, so it was going to apply to games that have already shipped, which is insane. I mean, I think like technically in their terms of service, they gave themselves room to do something like this, but like, is it actually a good idea to do it?
No!
In terms of the damage to your developer community, your customer base, which is permanent at this point? Absolutely not.
I mean, I think it was the Cult of the Lamb developers were like, they put out a thing. It was like, if this goes forward as predicted, or as they are saying it is, we will be taking our game down on January 1st.
I mean, like originally there were no provisions, no carve-outs for things like putting your game on like a Humble Bundle for charity, or like things that would drive a bunch of new installs without a bunch of revenue. Demos, Game Pass, like none of that seemed to have been thought out. They've backpedaled on quite a bit of it at this point. Like they've said, so like it's right. It was ripe for abuse was another concern. They were saying like, hey, somebody could like easily set up a Docker container to delete and install our game thousands of times overnight, and we're fucked. And there are certainly assholes out there who would do exactly that to get back at game developers that they're irrationally mad at. So like they've walked back. For example, they said like, okay, it's only going to count for first install per customer now, which is essentially equivalent to sales at that point. They said, like, for example, in the context of like Game Pass, the subscription platform holder would be responsible for the fees in that case. So like Microsoft would be on the hook for install fees for Unity games that are in Game Pass. I've lost track of all the stuff they've walked back. That's the stuff off the top of the head that I remember.
There's a cap on games that make, I'm trying to look up the number again, making over 1 million, they'll only collect 4% of the revenue.
Yes, it was a 4% cap, I believe. And that was, I should mention, there were tier thresholds announced at the original time of the release about like, oh, if you're on Unity Personal and you do 200,000 installs, you pay 20 cents per. If you're on Premium, blah, blah, blah. Like it's 1 million, etc.
And Unity is saying that like they're still talking internally. They haven't officially announced what their new changes are. They're still a lot of this information's coming leaked out of internal conversations they're having, but they're saying publicly, look, we think that 90% of the Unity users won't be affected. This is what they're saying publicly. It sounds like I have never seen any tech company.
Crazy. It is crazy. Just absolutely immolate themselves.
We've seen a lot of tech companies do stuff, but holy cow, the response to this
crazy.
It is wild.
Yeah, there's like the Cult of the Lamb stuff where they say they're just going to stop selling the game. There is Terraria, which doesn't even really use Unity, but they are donating $100,000 to Godot, the open source game engine. Is picking up a ton of steam and also donating $1,000 a month from here on out to it. The makers of Slay the Spire flat out said, "Hey, we've put years into our next project, which is on Unity. We are getting off of Unity. Like that is a massive amount of extra work to take on and extra cost for them to take on, but they are doing it. And I kind of don't blame them because, like, how can you ever trust Unity again after this?"
So that's a big one I've been reading is about like the developers just being like, yeah, they can walk this around as much as they want, but the trust is so hard to repair at this point because they threw this out there kind of like we just said. I don't want to rehash it, but without what seems like a lot of thought to get this out there with developers that have invested so much time using their engine. Look, Unity hasn't turned a profit. They're public now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. But like you can't do that.
No.
You know? Especially not when you have Unreal Engine out there just waiting.
Ascendant also. Like people are moving to Unreal with the most recent Unreal Engine.
And then things on the other side like Godot. Like
a lot of
just
people like moving to Godot. That's not the only open source engine out there. Like Bevy is another one that seems to be picking up some steam, although not nearly as much. But like, it's like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blender, the 3D modeling application that is like basically industry standard at this point. Like it seems like the time is ripe for a free open source engine to slide into that space of like, hey, Godot is the thing that budding game developers cut their teeth on now because it's A, freely available, B, pretty insulated from bullshit like this.
Yeah, it's like there's also things like Game Maker, there's Pygame, there's all sorts of stuff like that. Godot seems like a pretty mature or like robust.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it. I think it's getting there. I think it's still somewhat rough.
But yeah, I don't know if you're going to make Gears of War in Godot.
No, definitely not.
But your mobile game,
yes.
Which again, a lot of mobile developers looking at this being like, look, the return, I think you guys mentioned on the Tech Pod too, the return on investment, the return on download per mobile game is not there. Yeah. It doesn't exist.
I think what was it Will said? I think like if you like for free to play mobile games, if you monetize 1% of the people who download your game, you're doing very well.
So like that's a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
If you're paying 20 cents per download and not monetizing on 99% of those.
It's crazy. Like, what the fuck, man?
One of the other things that I saw some people talking about was Apple's partnership with Unity for their headset, and basically trying to bring games to their VR. What's the name of their VR headset? Vision Pro as a partnership and a pipeline to bring all these games over and if people are abandoning, I've saw this positive, I just take this with a grain of salt. If people are abandoning Unity, does Apple have a stake in going to Unity and being like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? That is a good point. Like I hadn't considered that it could undermine that development effort if they trash their own business.
Everything about this move, everything about what they're doing here screams, we are making a desperate play because things are not going well here. It does not feel like a kind of move you make when your business is strong. And it's not just desperation. It legitimately feels like you are actually trying to undermine what this company is supposed to be doing by coming up with something like this.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it are they actually on the rocks, or is it just they went public and now they've got a bunch of...
Well, I don't think going public was a good idea for them either.
And now they've got a bunch of like profit at all costs VC type assholes on their board pushing for stuff like this, or both. It could be both.
Well, and again, considering Riccatello's reputation, whether or not this is solely his doing or if he has other people around him that are also coming up with these bad ideas doesn't really matter. But by all accounts, from the word that was coming out of people who, work with Unity or even work within Unity, it sounds like it was a very small cadre of C-suite people who decided to do this shit despite the fact that every other person in the company was telling them, don't fucking do this.
Yeah. They've been stepping on rakes for a while. Nothing else they've done comes close to this.
No.
And I can't remember what a lot of the other instances were, but it's been like kind of a regular drumbeat the last year or two of like something else will blow up and you'll see a bunch of Unity developers online on Twitter furious about it and changing engines and stuff like that. Like this is by far the worst, but like they have not been endearing themselves to their customers for quite some time.
Not at all.
I believe, and again, some of the stuff is in flux. It's happening as we speak. I believe there are some lawsuits that are also being touted, I think, over in Europe, in the EU.
Yeah, there were like questions about whether this is even legal under EU law. Like Axios reported, one developer told them there's talk of a class action suit.
At the barest minimum, this is incredibly short-sighted, if not actually ruinous.
It's crazy how much damage they have done to their own business in such a short time.
You know, real quick, I'm going to check and see if John Riccatello has posted recently.
Again, Godot is not going to be the answer for some developers, and neither is Unreal. And Unity filled the spot there. So, but I feel like, look, Unreal, if you are looking to fill a market now, I'm not a developer. I don't know. I'm sure Unreal isn't great in a lot. I've heard a lot of horror stories about Unreal and support going to people who have a lot of money and maybe not to the people who don't. But if you want to make a product as a business person, now would be the time to launch your mid-size engine.
Yeah. More options, absolutely better than less in this, as in all spaces. Our former GameSpot coworker, Chris Wanstrath, I don't know if you saw, co-founder of GitHub, perhaps you've heard of it. He announced, like, he didn't really go into a lot of details, but he announced, I think it's void.dev is the site, which is really just a sign up, like an email list sign up right now. But I think they are working on some kind of new engine or development platform or tool chain of some kind.
Okay.
So just to your point about, like, hey, it's like time is ripe for other alternatives to emerge. You know, it seems like some people are absolutely thinking along those lines.
I think this whole thing is so weird. The last I saw, also there was like some petition by like 500 plus devs going out being like, "This is we're not going to go along. We're going to drop your engine." It's just, I wonder internally. I don't know, man. It's not my world. It's just watching from the outside is just bananas.
Yeah, like you see stuff going around on Twitter from Unity employees saying like, "Hey, mass resignations are going to happen. Like, people are fucking done with this. They're out." Like, it's hard to know for sure without a lot more insight into the internal workings, like how bad that stuff is. But
just look, again, outside, not in that industry, but like, to put such a drastic change into place without talking to developers, considering these things, getting out there and kind of slow rolling this process out where people are like, "Hey, I think Unity's looking at this change. We're considering this," just seems so bananas. Like,
it's just like colossally bad judgment. I don't even know how it happens from people who are paid millions of dollars a year, but maybe I answered my own question.
Well, let me tell you right now, if you're thinking about the kind of foresight that is going on with these folks, John Riccatello has not posted in a little while, but he apparently forgot to turn off posting things from other people that tag you in your own feed.
Oh boy.
Because there's a couple of things on if you go to his Facebook profile, there's a couple of things on here written by people that are not him that tagged him regarding the current Unity stuff. So
sure, they're not happy.
Well, one of them is kind of doing a bit of a cream of worm tongue thing here and saying, actually, it's good when companies make a profit. You guys don't understand. And then it's another person being like, "Thank you for your substantial contribution to open source gaming engines at the expense of your own company." Good stuff.
Yeah, who knows where this lands. Maybe they backpedal the whole thing. Maybe they settle on a softer version of it.
Or maybe they go out of business.
I
don't want that. I would rather Unity just continue to truck along and be a significant presence in the engine community, but this is going to be a hard one to walk back from.
Yeah, look, we're in a different age of the internet now. Like, there was a thing from, and then should not be a metric by which any standard be instituted, but I think I saw a thing. Elon Musk in an interview said, "Maybe we'll just make Twitter paywall for everybody."
Oh God!
Yeah, fine, do it.
I
fucking do it. Get me off that platform.
Dude, I hope to God he does it. I fucking please.
We're all just Rorschach saying, "Do it, do it."
Please, no, I desperately just give me a reason to never open that thing again, please. I hate it so much, and I still do it out of habit and out of some twisted, grotesque desire to see what people are saying, even though it is of very little value these days. Please give everyone who's not stupid enough to pay you for Twitter a reason to stop.
We're at an age
because we can't be trusted with ourselves.
No. All right. We have a couple of other quick pieces of news here. We'll get to. Those are very big, and then we're going to wrap this show up. Very quickly here, Brad Shoemaker, the Switch 2. The next Switch.
Yes. Gamescom. The Switch 2 was apparently shown by Nintendo to people who might develop for the Switch 2. That has been corroborated by Eurogamer and Video Games Chronicle. Mm-hmm. Who have said one of the things they showed, you'll never guess what this is. Zelda Breath of the Wild running at a higher resolution and a higher frame rate.
Wow.
That's what I want.
I was told that was impossible.
I mean, it's cool to know that's going on, even if that's like the most obvious tech demo in the world. It's cool to know that's happening. Like, does that actually come out as a product? I don't know. I mean, it should just be a free upgrade. Like,
yes, that should be.
Nintendo has not had a strong history of free upgrades for stuff.
It should be a free upgrade, or just sell it as a bundle with Tears of the Kingdom for $40 or something.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they have not had the comprehensive backwards compatibility that it seems like they're likely to have with the next Switch. You know, it's not like Wii U games ran on the Switch anyway that they could upgrade. You know. Whereas here, it seems pretty likely that there will be better backwards compatibility. Anyway,
yeah,
I would pay $10 for that, not $70.
Yeah.
Supposedly, they've also been showing that Matrix demo that Epic did for Unreal Engine 5.
I remember that.
Switch.
Yeah, that feels kind of old at this point, but
yeah.
But considering where Nintendo tends to be on these trends, that's not that far behind.
Yeah, I mean, it pushed the PS5 and Xbox like relatively hard. I'm sure this is significantly reduced from that, but you know, they're saying this thing has like decent ray tracing and good DLSS, good AI driven super sampling. So it sounds like a pretty beefy piece of hardware. Also, lastly, there is this Activision internal email, which this also came out of the Microsoft FTC stuff. Talking about being briefed on the Switch was it late last year? Yes. December of last year, an Activision executive referring to, let's see, given the closer alignment to Gen 8 platforms in terms of performance and our previous offerings on PS4 and Xbox One, it is reasonable to assume we could make something compelling for the next generation Switch as well. So, it seems like a pretty clear statement of where that thing is going to land performance-wise.
Yeah. Which is, look, it sounds bad when you say it like that, but like Nintendo's stuff is never in the horsepower, right?
No. But then also, you know, like the DLSS will buy you a lot of extra headroom if it's like PS4 level performance, but only has to run at half the resolution of the screen, and then they can upsample it. Then that's actually like pretty substantial. But like, what is the Switch? Is like a Wii U Plus kind of in terms of, it's like a decent bit faster than a 360, I think.
It's two 360s taped together.
You know, they've done pretty impressive stuff with that hardware. So I would expect them to do similarly impressive stuff with whatever they've got next. But like they've got a pretty low power ceiling they've got to work in, right, to keep that thing as portable as it is.
I guess so.
Like they're not going to ship something the size of the Steam Deck.
I just always felt the Switch was underpowered out of the gate.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but also, you know, they're trying to make a thing that is a certain form factor. Like I would not want it to be this. I would not want a Switch 2 to be the size of the Steam Deck to get Steam Deck like performance.
No, maybe you only get it when you dock. All right, let's wrap up this one with another entry into the. Are they going to be playing my console games in my pocket?
Yeah, as if there wasn't enough like industry-shaking news going on. Such games as Assassin's Creed Mirage and the RE4 remake are coming to the iPhone 15 Pro. Because apparently that thing is fast enough to run them quite well.
That's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, Apple's performance gains on their mobile chips are just completely insane when you look at like year to year how much faster they are from one phone to the next.
I mean, look, I don't know how the pricing shakes out, what the Apple tax is, but we're still talking $1,000+ phones, right? So
totally. And do you want to play these games on a screen of that size? Probably not. I sure don't.
I do not, but
Death Stranding is another one. Maybe you've heard of it.
I've heard.
I also don't want to buy these games again in my Apple platform.
No, it's more just interesting to me, at least as a sign of how powerful
the
mobile hardware is getting.
Yes, or like I remember at some point, in the GameSpot days, you had to blur some of the distinction between handheld and it started getting a little blurry in the like PS2-ish, Vita-ish, stuff would go back and forth and like, oh, is it a handheld? Is it this? Nintendo always kind of separated. Maybe now we're at the point where like a mobile game doesn't mean anything anymore. A mobile game could be the new Assassin's Creed, really.
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, this maybe feels like we're barreling toward that, but I still think there is a fair distinction to make between something that is made for mobile and made for console/PC.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, there's a lot of consideration still around just user experience, because like if you don't have a physical controller, that probably sucks to play. Although plenty of people do seem fine with soft analog sticks and buttons these days.
It's gotten better, is the thing.
Storage.
Storage, like the screen is not huge, maybe you could do TV out on it, but do you really want to do that? Like, it's not necessarily like an appealing use case, but it's still mind-blowing to me that these phones can even run these games at apparently like quite a high level of quality.
I'm with you. That's kind of amazing. I don't know if you're streaming these games or you're downloading them, but with those things don't have.
You're definitely downloading them, and these are running locally.
So what like these things have like 150 gigs, 160 gigs on them?
I don't know what is the biggest Pro they announced. I don't know. I think it starts at 128, 256. They might be up to a terabyte now. I think there's probably at least 512 options.
Okay. You're probably paying for it though, right?
Absolutely. Yes, these are not cheap phones for sure. It's more just
the resolution on the screens is high, right?
Yeah,
like
it's extremely high. It's more just kind of like this is like glimpse into the future type stuff of like this is bleeding edge hardware that is very expensive and you wouldn't necessarily want to do this, but imagine what the Switch 3 is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay.
Like
sure.
That's kind of where I'm going with this.
No, I think it's cool. It's cool and it's weird to see, and there's a convergence happening that I think is interesting if you take a step back and kind of look at all the pieces moving around. Maybe Unreal will be coming to mobile sooner than we think. Maybe Unity has lost that battle. All right. I think that's most of the news, and that's going to probably do it for this podcast.
Well, there's one more thing very briefly here to touch on.
Oh, yes.
Which is that Hideo Kojima got into the Criterion closet.
Oh, right. Right, yes.
That rapscallion found his way into the Criterion closet.
He's scanning. He's now face scanning all of these gorgeous Blu-rays.
No, he's mostly just pulling out films from Japan in the 1950s and 60s that apparently are harder to get physical copies of in Japan. So he was very excited about that.
What did you think of his selection?
Good. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen like High and Low, the Kurosawa film. I've seen like Onibaba and Kwaidan, which are both horror films. There's several on there I still need to see, but generally speaking, I feel like he made some very good picks.
Oh, this closet is like a thing?
Yes.
Okay, I had not seen the closet before. Right now I'm looking at him going, it's like heaven in here. It's like being in heaven.
I can't remember how long they've been doing it, but they've been doing it for a long time, and it's almost always like actors and filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
The occasional other celebrity.
I watched, they had the directors from Everywhere, Everything, All at Once in there. I saw that one. There were a couple of them, but it's funny to see him in there knowing his video game-ness is so based in movies.
Oh, yeah. His body is made of movies. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, are these? He's not like picking movies that are going to get like a re-release or something. Is this just a recommendation thing? It's just
it really is just a recommendation thing. And sometimes it's like literally just like, oh man, I haven't seen this movie in ages. Great, I'm picking this one. But in his case, I think he wanted to pick a theme, and it seemed to be stuff from his childhood that he wanted people to check out.
You get to keep them.
Yes,
you pick them and you take them out.
Yeah,
like you own them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was funny. It was a funny thing to see.
Good for him. Yeah. If anyone from video games was going to be the first like solely video game person to get in there, I feel like that's probably who it should have been.
Look, he wants a Criterion collection of Metal Gear on that wall someday. If he could just be like, it's kind of a movie. Can you put it on there? That guy seems to like movies.
I think so. Yes.
I like movies too. All right. That is going to wrap this one up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. That's the news there. We have an email address. It is podcast@nextlander.com, podcast@nextlander.com. We are going to save those emails for another show. We are running a bit long here.
Are we ever?
It's time to... look, stuff happened while we were away.
Got to catch all up on of it.
Games and news. The world keeps us spinning, even though we were spinning in our own personal spaces. We got a bunch of stuff going up. If you want to catch it, you can go over to patreon.com/Nextlander. That's patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a tier that's right for you. All the tiers there support us, but you can pick a tier that fits your lifestyle to keep us going. That support, we love it. There is one tier, though, on the Patreon that gets their names read on this here podcast, and I'm going to read those names right now. Starting with Ryan Waterman, RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Infelicitus Rips, Kelly F, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Wig Mistress Deidre, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Fiend, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Arita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thanks to everybody who has gone and supported us and kept us going over these 15, 20 years here at Nextlander.
Jeez.
No.
Don't do that to me, man.
Is that 2 years?
Over 2 years.
Over
It's over 2 years now.
Dude, we will be starting year 4 in the not especially distant future.
Wow. And we couldn't have done it without you. You can go over to patreon.com/Nextlander. Any support is adorable. Adorable.
Yes. So please lavish your adorably digital support upon us.
Look,
please.
I know this was a long podcast. Did your brain break?
A little bit, maybe.
Okay.
Is appreciated. Any support is appreciated. We do can't do it without you. You can go over and watch our stuff on YouTube, Twitch. And thanks for listening to our podcast. Again, we've got a Never Been a Better podcast going up on the Patreon. We have the return of the Watchcast.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing some bangers out of Hong Kong. We have Righting Wrongs. We're going to be having Hard Boiled
next week
over on the Patreon, which I'm pretty excited to see. Alex has been talking a big game about Hard Boiled.
I try not to hype these up too much unless I really am into it. I promise you, this one deserves it.
And a bunch of other stuff that you can go check out there. We have our continuing Remnant 2 journey up on the site, up over at YouTube now. You can check that out. We're going to be checking out a bunch of stuff on Thursday on the Grab Bag, so make sure to tune in for that. And then on Friday, I think we're going to dip into some Mortal Kombat 1 and see how it goes out there. Brad, you ready to go online with Mortal Kombat 1?
Boy, I haven't even touched the training. Well, yeah, I need to finish the story. We'll see where I'm at on Friday. We'll play it.
Alex, you going to challenge some folks in Mortal Kombat 1?
Challenge is a really bold word that I am not prepared to use.
Who's
Exist
your main?
in the same presence of and be rolled over? Yes.
Maybe we'll fight each other. We'll get out there. We'll warm up.
Scrub
we'll see
League.
some fatalities. I'll try and see if I can unlock. Maybe I'll just start playing through a character to unlock some fatalities and see what we can see.
Yeah, I'll definitely put some time into training and maybe pick a character or two to try to get comfortable with.
Yeah, we'll have to go online because people online will have all the fatalities unlocked. It's the only way we're going to be able to see them.
Yes, that story mode just goes. I played through like the first half of it in one sitting. Like it really just breezes by.
You got the achievement, the trophy or the achievement. Yeah.
So I will definitely have finished it by then, and I don't know who to main. I think Baraka seems maybe kind of cool.
That's the one I've had the best success with.
I don't know.
I don't know. I was trying the vampire lady for a bit. because I kind of wanted to see more of the fatalities. But I think I like Katana. Katana?
Okay.
Wait, I get
Katana's the
confused.
fan
Which one?
lady.
Okay, no, the side lady.
Oh,
Melina.
That role is really easy to do and then to combo into other stuff. Also, I'm going to say this. I know we talked about Mortal Kombat. We're going to end the podcast. I really like Reptile's portrayal in this game.
Interesting.
It's a good reptile.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's definitely different.
Yeah, I like that kid. I don't know. Like
He's going places.
Makes me want to play as Reptile.
The contrast, though, between his two forms is like almost impossible for me to like parse when he turns into the lizard.
It's nonsensical, and the reasoning for it is also just magic nonsense. But I don't know. I like the character they made out of Reptile, especially coming from, if you contrast it with the other Reptile that I know, which is from the Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh,
so this
they kind of, that was the other thing I was trying to think of. They kind of lifted the design of Reptile from that movie for this Reptile. It's like kind of the same monster or pretty close.
Wait, from the Mortal Kombat movie?
The most recent one. Are you talking about the old one?
Oh, no. I was talking about the original one.
Okay, yes. That Reptile
was in the statue.
The cinematic classic.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. That is the canon Reptile.
But in the newer movie from a couple of years ago, that is pretty much the same Reptile that's in this, or very close.
Look, Warner Brothers wants everything unified. All right. Unity, That's what Warner Brothers
UNITY.
That's going to do it for this week's podcast. Welcome back, Brad Shoemaker.
Queen Latifah never would have let this policy pass.
Absolutely not. Put her in charge of Unity now.
Alex Zavarro, welcome back. Thank you very much. Thanks,
you.
everybody, for joining us. And we'll be back next week with more from the Nextlander podcast. See ya.